the current language that you're reading the Bible in, word for word. Then we also have a thought for thought, meaning that we're not going word for word, but from the original translation, this was the thought. And then we translate that same thought into a more relevant version in that language. And then we have the paraphrase. One of the most well-known ones here is the Message Bible, which actually doesn't even do a thought for thought, but kind of brings things into today's psychology and ethics and things like that, trying to match it up with time, space, and it's not a word for word. There's also one on here that's not mentioned, which is the new, I think this is Glenn's favorite, the Gen Y, or no, Gen Z Bible. I would definitely say that it's in the paraphrase area there. But there's another one that's interesting over here, kind of hidden by the chat here, which is called the Interlinear. This one is actually a word for word translation. There is no additions, no subtractions. And if there's any unknown words there, they're marked as unknown. So you can actually line these up. So the reason we're using the NASB, which sits right here, is because when it comes to the English versions, it is the most accurate word for word of the original manuscripts. We can see here the original King James version, the KJV here, is actually more literal word for word than the New King James version, which is kind of interesting. And then one of the most popular Bibles out there is the NIV, and we can see this one sits right in the middle of the thought for thought. So for relevancy, and because we have non-believers that often talk about the translation, we will be using quotes all season from the NASB. So given that, today's topic is actually where did the Bible come from? And so we're really going to be asking a simple question: where did the Bible actually come from, and how did this collection of writings become what we now call Scripture? I invite people in the chat to throw their questions out, engage, and I'll be monitoring those, and we'll be monitoring those. At the end of this episode, we will actually start addressing some of your guys' comments. You can bring them to the panel. We'll let the panel respond. So given that, let's actually jump into the panel. So every episode, we do have a committed panel that's here that you guys will get to know and love. I have to give my extended appreciation to all of them because they have been so helpful in helping me launch this. They've added a lot of the insight into all of this. It has not just been me. I just have an amazing group of panelists that are both faithful and unfaithful or non-faithful. And I'm really appreciative to all of them being here. But every episode, we will have one special guest. And these special guests, sometimes I know what side they're on, sometimes I don't. Sometimes they'll be coming from an agnostic, an atheist, an anarchist, maybe even a different religion view, or they may be actually on a faithful view. I'm going to try to make sure I bring up panelists when it comes to really detailed conversations that has some sort of relevancy to that particular conversation. So we do have our first special guest, and I'm proud to announce him. That is going to be Cleaner 409. So I'm super excited that he's here. Super excited that he's here to support me. Very great guy right here. You can find his YouTube channel at Cleaner 409. So make sure, if you haven't seen him before or you're not familiar with him, go over to his channel, check it out, subscribe, like, make sure we show all of our panelists out there some love. I'm about to bring up our panelists. I am your host, and this channel is originally streaming from YouTube or Vibe on YouTube. So if you want to go ahead and follow me and get updates on all of our studies that are coming up in the future, make sure you subscribe there. I already mentioned our guest, Cleaner 409. On our panel, we have Beth, we have Glenn, we have Dusty, we have Ryan, we have Tyler, who's Average Debate Enjoyer, and hopefully John Mooseman's going to join in at some point here. I'm not sure if he's going to make it on today's episode or not. Actually, I haven't checked the back room to see if he's shown up yet. No, I don't see him yet. So yeah, make sure you go to everybody, like and subscribe them, follow them. It's like I said, a super honor to have everybody there. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and as soon as I can get myself up here, there we go, perfect. And yeah, let's bring everybody up. There we go. Oh, we got Glenn, we got Ryan, we got Cleaner, we've got Flo, Beth, Tyler, and we are missing, yeah, John, I think, right? All right, so that's going to kick us into the intros. I'm going to go based on the order on the screen here for everybody, but I'm going to put Cleaner last since he is our special guest here. So that means that we're going to start off with Beth. What I'd like to hear is like everybody to keep it to a minute or two, not too long, very short. Where your faith is, what you expect out of this, and if you want to plug yourself, go ahead. So Beth, it's all you.
Short and simple. I was raised in a non-denominational Christian fellowship, which became a church. I don't exactly have a denomination as of today, but definitely, of course, still keep to Christianity. I'm just excited to have a really cool conversation with everybody and kind of explore my ideas and hopefully bring some really cool stuff to the table. And no plugs for me.
All right, awesome. Dusty.
I'm Taylor, or Flow State, or Dusty, whichever you want to call me. My channel is The Powdered Dusty. I am an agnostic who does not believe in organized religions at all, for sure, but I consider myself agnostic because I am also not a materialist, right? I don't think we're just an accident that popped out of a big bang. But anyways, glad to be back. I'm not going to do a long intro because I did look one last time. So if you don't know me, watch the first episode.
Which is a good point. So anybody that is interested in getting a little bit in depth with all the panelists, we did do a episode 0, Meet the Panel. Feel free to check that out on our channels. Glenn, you're next.
Sorry, I'm eating. I'm Glenn. Glenn Lawrence. Yeah, that's me. I'm eating, and I'll talk to you guys after I'm done eating.
Ryan.
Yeah, I'm Ryan, Radical Coder. I am an atheist. You might say I'm agnostic, but I'm pretty confident with the atheist label. I think that usually atheists mean that they have no reason to believe in the Christian God or any God, really. Atheist to that, as well as Ra, the sun god, etc. But I am very open-minded, very curious, a little bit spiritual in some ways, but more so in a caring about consciousness kind of way. But definitely very interested to see like what I don't know about the Bible, which is a lot. So it'll be interesting to hear where people are coming from. I'm always very, very skeptical of anyone who claims to know what the creator of the universe wants and to want to impose that on anybody around them.
All right, Tyler.
Hello, average debate enjoyer. I'm a little outside of my element with this, so I've been prepping like crazy. You really should go back and watch the first episode. Vibe got into his childhood. It was really tragic, heartwarming. Like, really, like, just check it out. It's great. On top of that, I am about as atheist as one can get while still remaining agnostic. Just because there's no evidence to prove something to me doesn't mean there's sufficient evidence to disprove that it could exist at all. So I leave that door open a little bit, but I'm the ultimate skeptic here to kind of question everything thrown my way. Otherwise, check me out on YouTube or Twitter or Twitch and all that fun stuff.
All right, awesome. And then finally, once again, thank you, Cleaner. for joining as our first special guest. And the floor is yours for your introduction.
I'm cleaner. I don't have a specific religion that I ascribe to, but I have an unwavering faith. No one will ever be able to talk or debate me out of my belief in God. I am very, very steadfast in that.
You're immune to logic.
No, actually, I'm not. We can get into that, though.
And is that it?
Ooh, I think we see where the fun's going to be tonight already. That's exciting.
Yes, absolutely. All right. That's exciting. All right. So, once again, it's going to get uncomfortable for the atheists and the agnostics here because this is a Bible study. So we are going to do some scripture. Sorry about that.
Christians too. It's going to be uncomfortable for everybody.
Yeah,
Not
I
just
think
them.
I wouldn't say it's particularly. I mean, I'm not uncomfortable when I read Lord of the Rings. I'm not uncomfortable when I read Harry Potter. Mythology is fascinating.
Brilliant. And Beth is 100% right. Because there are topics that when I read, I'm kind of a little bit uncomfortable about too. And once again, that's the reason for this whole study, right? Where I'm reading something and I'm like, when I have to discuss it with somebody else and their views, sometimes it gets a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. You don't want to accidentally lead anyone the wrong way either by saying something that, might completely turn them off like that. So it can be it's
Exactly.
uncomfortable for everybody.
I agree.
Christian
So
on
much.
Christian violence kicking off.
Well, I mean, from what I've seen most recently over the past year and a half, 2 years, that seems to be what happens quite a bit because some Christians believe that just because somebody smokes or drinks a little bit of whiskey or something that they can't be a Christian or they're doing something wrong. And
Yeah, those
just
guys
not
think
what
they're
the Bible
God
says.
themselves.
I get that. I'm just saying, so this is something very simple, and that's not necessarily true. So I do see a lot of that.
Everything has Puritan gatekeeping, though. You're not a sufficient X unless you do Y is like a very common thing right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, I kind of it's above my pay grade, so I don't worry about things above my pay grade.
I only know what I'm told.
All right, perfect. Well, each episode, we're going to try to jump into 4 different topics subtopics related to the master topic. However, being that I'm just flowing in with money and sponsors are killing me nonstop to be sponsored on this show, I have to lead off with the first sponsor right now, which we've got here. So tonight's Uncomfortable Bible Study is proudly sponsored by Scrolls R Us, your one-stop shop for slightly used Torah scrolls. That's right, friends, 20% off parchment that's only been cried on a few times in a synagogue. Why buy fresh when you can buy blessed? These scrolls come pre-highlighted by prophets, guaranteed to roll smoother than your uncle's conspiracy theories. But beware, side effects may include sudden conviction, uncontrollable repentance, and an overwhelming urge to quote Leviticus at family gatherings. Scrolls R Us, because the word of God never goes out of style.
Oh my God.
You should totally let me make a commercial out of this, like the Diddy Oil one.
Yes.
I can make it. Yeah,
Exactly like the Diddy Oil one.
Oh my God.
I know you would like the Diddy Oil one there,
I mean,
Ryan.
that was a pretty good live.
It was a great
play off
live.
of that. That was you did that. You delivered that really well live.
Perfect.
He's done this before, you guys. He's done this before.
Don't forget to use code VIBE at checkout to earn an extra 10% off, by the way.
Oh man, that was excellent.
All right. I figure there's no better way to set up the conversation than with a little bit of humor first, right? All right. So yeah, first section and the first topic is what is the Bible, and so I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of intro on this. I'm going to let you guys kind of take it over. So we do have the Greek word of Bible, and I don't even know how to say it in Greek. I'll be honest. I'm not that smart. Maybe somebody else on here can actually do the Greek pronunciation. But the Greek word Bible actually means the books. So we are talking about a collection of books. And it can be any collection. They don't even have to have anything to do with God. So it's a collection of books that fit into a common reference. When we really want to get accurate, we actually talk about the Holy Bible. So when we talk about the Holy Bible, that means we're talking about a God-breathed, or at least on the Christian side, a God-breathed group of books that have been compiled together. Something that's important about this group of books in the Holy Bible is that they're not a science book. They are not explaining biology. They're not explaining physics. It's actually telling a story. And to make it the story really short, it's telling a story where God creates, humans fall, God redeems through Christ, and it ends with restoration in a new creation. So it is a story, and it actually fulfills that story from the very first book to the very last book. The Bible actually consists of, in the Christianity version, 66 books for the Protestants, 73 for the Catholics, and I think even more for the Orthodox. I definitely think this might be somewhere where people will go, okay, we got a lot of books here. This is going to be part of the conversation, and we have different Christianity faiths. How do we determine these books and which books we don't? So really, when we're looking at the Bible, if the Bible is just books, does the authority from the word Bible come from the word Bible, or what's inside the Bible? And this particular group of books, through what's inside of it, is that what makes it holy? So I've got a couple passages here too, before we kind of dive into the questions here. So I did talk about NASB. All these quotes are going to be NASB throughout. We're not going to mix and match. We're just going to keep that consistent. Also open to the chat saying, hey, why are you using NASB? I'm looking for any criticism, anything we can do to make it better, let me know. But we got 2 Timothy 3:16 through 17. All scripture is inspired by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness, so that the man of God may be adequate, equipped for every good work. Another quote we've
Profitable. I want to point out profitable there. Interesting.
Well,
got.
okay.
Psalms 119, 105. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. So from the Christian side, this is kind of when we're looking at the Bible, like the Bible is a lamp for us. It guides us. We see where it's going. But for the non-Christian, when we're actually looking at what the Bible is, we did discuss, is the Bible more like a library or a single book? And to my point, I think it is a library of multiple books, multiple authors. But in the end, it's kind of a single book because it is a single story. And once again, I'm not saying this is a fact. I'm just throwing these out as questions. Does its diversity of genres strengthen or weaken its divine claim? And is it an unchanging light for mankind? So this is kind of the first section of what the Bible is. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for whoever wants to kick it off.
The last one's easy to answer. It depends on the religion. Some religions allow their biblical text to be interpreted and changed over time based on the era that we're in, the time that we're living in, and some don't.
All of them do. Unless you're saying you read it in the original Greek.
Well, we may translate it, and if you consider that a change, then sure, it's changed. But if you consider a translation a simple translation and not a change, then I would say no. Some religions have tried to keep it as to the letter as possible.
I think that the point was to try to keep the spirit of the language that was being used. However, obviously, from the words we have today don't have the same meaning that they would have had, 2,000 years ago. Like, for instance, the word profitable, which I know Dusty jumped on real quick. First, I would challenge.
I mean, Christians are taught to be generous.
Exactly. They're taught to give away.
If
more than they-
I had no morals, I would absolutely rebrand and come back as a preacher, because it is profitable. It is profitable. You cannot say that word is wrong there. It certainly is.
I think
accurate.
that what I'm saying is I would challenge what the original word was that was used and how it was, the context in which it was used. However, especially because within like the followings of Jesus, especially, he says to give away your thing. So therefore, how would you be profiting financially if you're giving away everything?
Well, because the Bible is not internally consistent in many ways.
Or
Some aren't. Some are.
or profiting can be beyond just financial gain.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
just to be fair, like profit can. I mean, like even colloquially, like we use the word profit to refer to like just good things coming to people, right? But as for the question of, I'm not sure the divinity of it is really spoken to by the variety of genres. From my perspective, I don't know if that, like when we said to strengthen or weaken it, it doesn't really do anything. I'm not even sure really how to gauge divinity of something, which I think is maybe going to be one of the interesting angles that we approach here.
Well, something that I was always taught when I was growing up was that to look at the Old Testament as more of like a history book, if you will, right? The story of how we got here, the best prescriptions for how to live, and what to expect. There's definitely prophets that take place throughout there too.
Most Christians reject the Old Testament prescriptions for how to live.
To a degree, but not necessarily. They say that some of them are a little overdone, like mixing linens, or cutting your hair.
No. I mean, what they say is that there's the new covenant and the old one doesn't. Those are full on dismissed.
My mic keep on cutting in and out. That's weird.
I think
So you're saying that they reject a part of their Bible, actually probably the largest part of their Bible, because the Christians, like, typically it'll be, I think it's like 33 to 41 books out of
How about now?
60 something to 70 books will be. So I mean, it's a large majority of the Bible, the Old Testament. So they reject. You're saying they reject a large portion of their historical documentation in the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. This should not, and I mean, this shouldn't be surprising to anybody, because we've all of us have been around debates.
How about that? Are you still getting?
We can hear you. Oh, I mean, like all of us have heard people do that. Well, that's the Old Testament. I'm talking,
And you're wrong to do that, because in all actuality, even when Jesus breaks it down to 2 commandments, by following those 2 commandments, you're covering all of the other ones.
At no point do those 2 commandments lead us to not mixing linens.
Those are not part of.
Right,
so,
you're doing it now.
Yeah, you've got to get into like the difference between cult. It comes down to biblical law versus church dogma, right? And
all this stuff is in the Bible, so maybe you want to think through your resistance before you just start talking it out.
I would say what I think and I'm not going to say like all the people that are in the church, but like typically what I hear from priests is if the Old Testament and the New Testament conflict in some way, the New Testament is what they follow. Not specifically that they don't listen to the Old Testament, but that if there's a conflict of some kind, it would be the New Testament, because that was what was created of Christ.
And just because there's like ceremonial laws and things like that, that doesn't make them necessarily practices that need to be. They change.
How do you determine which one is can be dismissed as ceremonial or cultural, and which one of the prescriptions in the Bible is biblical?
It's really so. Like a perfect example is we can even look at within the New Testament when Paul is writing letters to the churches and he's giving prescriptions for how to.
So chat. Do you guys get an echo now at all? I don't got an echo now.
No, Glenn, you're.
All right, cool. I'm talking to my chat. You can stop eavesdropping on my chat, you guys.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
well,
we
you're
can hear
talking.
you.
About to talk shit about you guys.
Our bad. Our bad.
It's funny because like it says I'm muted on here, but
Yeah, but-
apparently
Can
it's
you
not.
hear Glenn?
Yeah, no, we can hear you
Yeah.
loud and clear.
It's funny. I've seen this happen before, where like somebody was muted in Streamlabs in the Talk Studio, and we could still hear them. I'm not sure what's up with
Yeah.
that.
I
But,
think
yeah.
Talk Studios like works for the feds.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Well, I
So-
just unmuted myself now.
To kind
I
of
think
look at
some
that,
people
to-
couldn't hear. Yeah, that again,
That's
that's the same
weird.
thing that was happening this one time. I don't know. It's weird.
to loop it back to
I'm
your
sorry, I
original
didn't mean to, like,
question,
Derail anything.
Yeah,
does
shut
the
up, Glenn.
authority come from the books itself, or what's inside the books, or the title of the Bible? I think that what people are arguing over clearly is more toward the Bible, because we can see some historical framework for some of the contents of the Bible that worked out for civilizations at the time, like things about slavery and not wearing two cloths and whatnot. But nowadays, those things don't so much ring true because they don't work with our society. I'd say the Bible itself is what manifests the authority, and what is in it is not as important just off of the distinction alone.
The distinction comes down to, like I was trying to say, like you can see it very clearly with the letters that Paul writes to the churches, okay, where he's like, listen, God says this, and I understand you have this problem. God didn't say anything about this problem, so I, Paul, say this is the best way to handle it, and that becomes what they follow. Does it say that God said it? No. As a matter of fact, he's very clear to say God didn't say it. I'm saying it. So that's where you have to look. You have to look at whatever it is.
So I
that you're-
look at Paul to find out what part of Leviticus is.
No. What you do is you back in the Old Testament, you want to rewind, and you need to read what's happening before the passages that you're looking at, and look at the context of who said it, why they said it, and what authority they gave it under. That's
Yeah,
all.
but most of these are prescriptions for daily life for the Jews, right? The like dietary laws, what you can wear, hair cutting, that sort of stuff. All these trivial prescriptions. How do you within those, right? They're prescribed to the Jews. What you seem to be doing is picking some of those out and saying, well, we don't need this because blah 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 blah. But unless I'm mistaken, they're all kind of just laid out for the Jews.
They're primarily for the Jews and the people of that time. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, of course, it's like I said, even you see ceremonial laws shift and change over time, depending on where they are and, who the, pretty much who is there and what the circumstances are. They couldn't always practice things the way that they wanted or traditionally practice them because they were under occupation or, full out in slavery. So
God changes his mind about the laws.
no, God didn't change. Again, did God say it, or was it something that was recommended by the people to set
The
themselves apart
Bible is
from
God's
everyone else?
word.
So, I mean, could we break this up into a few different pieces, right? So we've got the 10 Commandments, right? That's the most popular thing that everybody knows. And from the Old Testament to the New Testament, I wouldn't say that the New Testament actually refutes the Old Testament. I would say it actually it completes and it extends it, right? So if we were to look at it at the 10 Commandments, is there anywhere in the New Testament, per se, where Jesus says that any of those are now no longer valid?
He doesn't say they're not valid. He says he completes the law. And the implication there is that you don't need to stress about this. If something is completed, it's not still in process.
He says
Yeah.
he fulfills the law, which means he lived it to the letter.
That's not what that means anywhere else where the word fulfilled is not used that way anywhere else. You're redefining it.
Okay.
Is it? Give me an example. When else does fulfill mean embodied?
Just because you embody something, he says outright, I came to fulfill the law, not to do away with it. That doesn't mean the law is now done and gone.
So how did you come to your conclusion that fulfill here means embody? Because that's not where how fulfill is used anywhere else, not even in the Bible, but just at all ever.
You can, all right, how do I word this?
Fulfill as in the completion of, or fulfill as in the feeling of?
As in, uh, not that, well, I wouldn't consider it so much as the completion of, just because you do it, that doesn't mean it's done. I think the argument we're having here is, moreover, is it complete and is it done and away with, or is it lived up to and embodied, like Dusty's saying? And I would argue more that, especially because we also know from scripture, he's said to have, gone to the cross without sin. That would mean that he had to follow the law to the letter. Okay. And not messed up on that. So therefore, he's fulfilling the commandments of the law. He's living up to all of them. But he says outright himself, I came to fulfill them, not to do away with it.
This is another contradiction, though, because when something is fulfilled, you can check that box, it's done. So, again,
Let me
what
break
is
out my handy dandy dictionary. Let's look up some.
Wouldn't
You
it
guys
also
chit chat.
wouldn't it also be said that because we look at some of the laws in the Torah, the first 6 books, right, where there are sacrifices required. Us humans have to basically give up our flock and certain things to God. However, in the New Testament, there's no more sacrifices. However, the ultimate sacrifice was made, Jesus, the Lamb, and he fulfilled that sacrifice, which therefore nullifies those previous sacrifices. Would I be incorrect in saying that?
That sounds right to me, right? Like that final sacrifice completes that. We can put blood sacrifice away. It's done.
So we have confirmation that the Old Testament 10 Commandments are part of the New Testament. We've got confirmation that the removal of the blood sacrifice is because we actually sacrifice God in the New Testament. What would be the next area where you're saying that
What was the
Old
first one you
Testament
said? Sorry, what was the first one you said?
the 10 Commandments, they're still
What about-
upheld in the New Testament.
Yeah.
Maybe, but what I'm talking about is fulfillment. What does it mean to fulfill something?
I
And
have
you brought up the excellent example of blood sacrifices. That is something that every Christian agrees is fulfilled and done. We don't still need to do blood sacrifices because Jesus changed that and he fulfilled that requirement.
Right. So we're talking about the completion of the requirements
Correct.
in the Bible. Right.
There are 4 definitions for the transitive verb to fulfill something. There's to put into effect, execute, to meet the requirements of, to measure up to, or to bring to an end. So you've got 4 definitions. Can
So
all 4 be applicable in different ways, depending on which part it is you're looking at?
So Beth, either the law was completed and you no longer need to be upheld to it, or we should be doing some sacrifices real soon because we're behind.
Nah. I think that different aspects can. Then why would he still uphold the 10 Commandments and say that this is still in effect?
I don't think that he does. I'm just accepting the claim because I assume that whoever made it knows better than I do.
They are still upheld. That's why, I mean,
In the New Testament? All right, well, then if the old law is still upheld in the New Testament, we better find some sheep.
So I can help you a little bit here. I looked a little bit of this up while you guys were arguing. The law breaks down into 3 divisions: moral, civil, and ceremonial. The moral law is timeless, applied to all, something Jesus followed. The civil law is for the Israelites, set up apart from other nations, also followed that to a T. That's how he died without sin. And the ceremonial law is religious sacrifices to the temple. That ceased after he died because he was the perfect sacrifice for our sins, requiring no more sacrifices moving forward. So that's how that is.
But where does that come from, right? Did Jesus say, I'm only completing ceremonial?
I don't think so. I think
I don't think so either. I think that it's a Christian interpretation to try to have their cake and eat it too.
it could be.
Well, on that note, I was kind of thinking about the third question, which was, and is it an unchanging light for mankind? And I think this again, kind of for me, it's similar to like any book. how any book can be an unchanging light for mankind is in like at any point in history we can pick up a book and learn something from it, no matter like what book it is or what like there is something that can be interpreted and something can be picked up from it, because it sounds like that interpretation and the enacting of the rules that are interpreted, that seems to change based on a lot of different factors, whether it's how specific words are used in a specific time, or just how people prefer to use those words at a given time.
Well, I mean, I think if we're going to try and understand what they would mean when they said fulfillment back then, like, wouldn't we want to go to the language that they used back then to try and understand the actual word they were using? Like at that time, fulfillment meant to come to an end or to be consumed. So, I mean, that would be you're finished with that. That doesn't need to be done anymore because we've fulfilled that. It's done.
I'm pulling up what the original word was. All right. The original word, I can't even put it up here. It's P-L-E-R-O-O with a bunch of lines over the top. And it looks, so the core meaning of the word, as in to fill something up to its capacity, also to accomplish or carry out. Jesus carries out the law by perfectly obeying it and bringing it to its intended end. But that's not
Dun-dun-dun.
Right. So something would be accomplished. It would be finished. It would be done. No need to do that anymore in the future. I.e., Jesus sacrificed himself, completing the sacrifice, so no one in the future has to complete a sacrifice anymore.
Which would also be why the only requirement Jesus gives for getting into heaven is to believe in him, right? There's one requirement. So the old requirements were completed by Jesus. There's really no way around that.
So then the argument becomes more of, is it a requirement or is it more of like a, I hate to say suggestion for your well-being? Because I mean, we can all agree that many things that are listed in the law and in the 10 Commandments are bad for us, right? Like murder and lying and stealing and
Yeah, but I mean that's those are universal rules, right? There's nothing uniquely Jewish or Christian about not stealing, right? Stealing is prohibited basically across the board.
Well, I would disagree with that statement with the way today's society is going, in the sense, right? Like, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Right.
I gotta close my windows real quick. We're like getting yelled at here back.
We have a lot of degens out there that are saying that you know what, like, what if both parties are fine with it and you want to do threesomes and you want to sleep with everybody in the neighborhood and do all these things, that's perfectly fine. And we're moving towards that type of society where if I don't like that somebody else just like goes around and sleeps with everybody, I mean, because that's one of the commandments is basically we should not be doing that type of stuff. Society can change.
Ryan, stop it.
Sorry, but that's a non-enforceable. That's a non-enforceable law, right?
Well,
because coveting somebody. How would you know if somebody's covetous?
It would be non-enforceable now based off of the world, like the social construction we have here in America. But in some countries, it's enforceable. Like if you go over to some of the
coveting is a feeling.
That's completely right. Well, if somebody sleeps with your wife in the Arabic countries, you can fucking kill them.
Right, but you're moving the goalpost kind of, because coveting something and having sex with it are two different things.
What I'm actually speaking to is the act itself, right? So if you're doing something like that, and I don't know if what they were specifically saying was just the thought of, but I mean I would think even the thought of something like that would be kind of, that would be kind of fucked up, you know? It's somebody else's wife or some shit, you know what? Like really.
Sure,
you know?
But I mean, my point is that this is a non-enforceable law. So
that part of it would be, but the action could be enforceable.
But the action is something else, and the action is not what's prohibited. The sentiment is what's prohibited.
Well, realistically, either one could be enforceable, right? Like if you could you could attempt to enforce, and I'm sure there have been places that tried to do this, or they did try to enforce someone just even having the idea of coveting their neighbor's wife, right? Or like how just having an attract, like if somebody like
it's a
displays
handy
some sign-
justification. It's a
Right.
handy justification if you're mad at somebody like, I saw
Yeah,
Ryan
yeah.
look at my wife, he's covetous.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, if you have a state that'll enforce that, then I mean, they certainly could in theory.
But how is this unenforceable?
Wear
by God?
sunglasses, guys.
Tell your wife
Well,
to stop
you know-
staring at me. I don't know.
the thought side, I think that what Dusty's saying is fair. The thought side is something that's unenforceable. You can't prove somebody's thinking something unless you see them act upon it. The action we can enforce, but not the thought. How could you enforce the thought? You're not God.
Well, but enforceable does. I think it doesn't. You don't have to be right or wrong technically to enforce. You can just have the idea that someone is doing it and then try to enforce that on them. Like right, like I mean, realistically, like that is technically possible.
That law
That
as
wouldn't
written
necessarily
can
be
never
enforcing
be
that.
justifiably enforced. It can be referenced as an excuse to unjustifiably, persecute
Right.
somebody. But to say that it's against the commandment to think this thing, and you're thinking that thing, there's a big disconnect there.
Right.
So if I can bring this back, because I actually do understand this argument here, but we are talking about what is the Bible. So based on that first topic there, I know we're now arguing between the Old Testament and the New Testament, and I think it's a good argument. But I mean, maybe we can go around on each panelist's idea for just like a minute on what each person thinks the Bible is outside of the laws in between, or the Old Testament and the New Testament, because I actually do want to go into that and kind of develop from the beginning to the end. But I mean, what is the Bible to you guys?
Where do you want to start with? What, me again?
You're talking. Let's go.
Oh, Lord.
Thank you for volunteering.
So it's a collection of texts that, in my opinion, is incomplete. There were many more texts that were considered, only some chosen. And I believe that the Old Testament is primarily more of like a history book, essentially. And we can actually nail down a lot of the events through it, which was kind of shocking to find. And I think the New Testament is more prescriptive for us. And it's something for all of us to fight about.
For sure. And what do you think the Bible is, Dusty?
First of all, I would like to shout out my 40 times great grandpa Constantine for creating this monstrosity. I think that it is it's a selected collection of spiritual books that has been turned into an idol by the Christians that follow it. It's also not a consistent story. In fact, Christianity is the inverse of Judaism. Everything from the law, which in the Old Testament, God is referenced to as the law several times. But Jesus fulfilled the law. And as we can see, even though Christians will go kicking and screaming to acknowledge it, the Old Testament law is not a key function of Christianity today at all.
I do love, and I take a little half win there, that you didn't say it was a collection of books. You said it was a collection of spiritual books.
Okay. Yeah. As well as like the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Something as simple as that has been changed by Christianity. So I think that Christianity is the response to is the cultural or psychological response to what was an imperial problem for the Romans of this tribe of Jews who were kind of rebellious. So what's a good way to put them down? You usurp their religion and inject it with the opposite, basically trying to neutralize it. So I think that it's largely a psyop that has proven useful over time and continues to be useful and profitable.
This is why I got to keep you and Teriak out of the same room. So I'm glad I only have one of you guys.
Why? Does he agree with me?
Well, he's going to go psyop, and he's going to go conspiracy, and he's going to go like black ops on.
I mean, you don't.
Deep State.
Yeah, no, it's not even like that. You don't even have to get down the rabbit hole. You can look at the stages of brainwashing. and see that they go through exactly the stages of what Christianity does. You're bad. You're inherently bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. You need saved. We can save you. Here you go. Here's your relief. It's exactly the same thing as brainwashing techniques.
This is great because I actually did cover a lot of these topics in the original episode 1. So I do have retorts for that. I think I'm going to save for the next episode. But Ryan, what's your version of what do you think the Bible is? And is it real? I mean,
You say, is it real? I mean, like, there is a Bible, right? Like, it is. I'm not sure how to engage with that exactly. I don't have like a deep understanding of the historical context. But like it certainly seems like it has a functional use historically. Like we talked about how a lot of the things that the Bible suggests are or commands are things that are just kind of good in general. Like would surely have, like, most people would have been like, don't take my shit, like, don't steal from me, regardless of, before the Bible or before the commandments are telling them not to, don't kill, like, people are like, don't kill me before that, like, people still so like try just using a system to try and enforce these things or to encourage more people to follow those rules certainly seems like a functionally useful thing for societies. And so I imagine that in a lot of contexts that's what it was used for, and that also means that it was whoever is kind of deciding what it says or who communicates what it's saying to people in their society, they are also able to use it to tell them what they think, again, as I alluded to earlier, like what they think the creator of the universe wants them to be doing. Whether that's good advice or bad advice is a different conversation. But
and I'm going to skip the screen a little bit here and go to Glenn on his interpretation of what the Bible is.
Yeah. So what the Bible is basic instructions before leaving Earth. Thank you very much. I rest my case, Your Honor.
Tyler.
So, I guess I was kind of hoping somebody would say something similar to me. I guess I'm on my own little branch here, but I see the Bible as an amalgam of stories, morals, character building in a way that fits a particular ideology like any other. Like, unlike certain ideologies, this one's actually written down with a nice structure, well thought out. Most of the morals and principles, if you follow them, will make you a good person. I view it as this one just has a ringing endorsement because they also made up this entity that's all-knowing that says, hey, this is the right one. And coincidentally, every religion does something similar to that. But I don't see it any differently than finding an ideology to have your worldview around that's political, or finding an economic ideology that you base your worldview around, or anything like that, except this one is more overarching, more encompassing. It controls actions on higher levels than just these other minor ideologies would by comparison. Like, you put socialism up against religion, obviously socialism is going to fall far short because it only covers this much, whereas religion is a dictate for your entire life. But I think it's a complete ideology, and almost all successes of it, a lot of atheists try to play down. I see those all as successes of man that we should take. We should take a victory lap for, and in essence say, like, the people that believe this believe that God handed it down to them, but essentially this is the creation of man, and this is some of our best work. So that's kind of how I see it.
I like that, and I'm going to put a pin on that, but I'll let Cleaner kind of wrap up with his final definition of what is the Bible.
I would say very close to what Tyler said. It's a collection of stories that show a prescription of morals that should be aspired to based on the religion's social construct of right and wrong, and or good and bad.
Yeah, and
guys, I said it's so much easier. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. Like, the acronym worked. Why did you like say all this other words and stuff? You just like made it take longer.
Well, I think there is something key into what Tyler said too, right? And kind of going into like, where did the Bible come from? And ultimately that would be, does it come from man or does it come from God? And there's something really interesting because, I mean, Tyler actually said it's like one of the, it has good morals, it has good stories, it has good anecdotes. It has actually helped build society in quite a positive manner. And I think a lot of atheists and agnostics would agree it helped build. Now, I don't know if they necessarily agree that it is relevant today, where we're arguing it is relevant today. I think it's more relevant today than ever. But I think they would all agree that through history, minus the Spanish Inquisitions and people that like used it incorrectly, overall it was really good building blocks for humanity. But if we actually look at this, where did the Bible come from, right? We know that we have like over 40 authors, right? We have 3 different languages it was written in. We have different time periods, and we have different locations. All these things were written in. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle. And somehow we were able to pull all these pieces together where both forward and backwards, all these books when put together reference each other. And granted, there's some books that are left out of the version I read. There's some books that are left out of both the Catholic, the Christian, Orthodox, and Protestant versions. But even when we look at these books, they all forward and backwards self-reference each other with different authors of different times in different locations. And when I look at where did the Bible come from, it almost just seems amazing on how coherent it is when put together. That it almost seems impossible that it could just be man. Like, I mean, how did guy A in this century and guy B in that century coordinate to make sure their books line up? So
But
I'll just
guy-
kind of put that out there. And this is kind of bringing us back into, this is bringing us to section 2. Where did the Bible come from?
Because guy B read guy A.
No, because you see, you can actually look at places in the Old Testament where over 1,000 years early, crucifixion was described in really great detail over 1,000 years before crucifixion even existed. So how?
Probably not. First of all, crucifixion is not a complicated concept. It may have been formalized and institutionalized later, but it's not a complex concept. Also, we're receiving a completed book thousands of years later. You're saying with absolute pure certainty that it could not have been added afterwards. Like, people don't use prophecies or predictions or Nostradamus stuff and then try to play with dates or use it. Of course, it could have been the most logical thing is to go, well, this if there could have been no way that they knew about this back then you have to assume that it was added at a later time. That's
so
Yeah,
okay. I get what you're saying, and like, all right, as far as the books go, like, I can totally agree. Like, there's a lot that I personally think should be in the Bible that's not in the Bible for a myriad of reasons. Primarily because it cost so much and was so labor intensive in order to even make texts back then. Depending,
you think that they left that out because the church couldn't afford it?
But some books, absolutely, and because they also don't like. They picked what best suits some narratives in some situations, or what they felt completed the message thorough enough for what they were aiming at. So I think there's books that are absolutely left out. I mean, many of the Dead Sea Scrolls can be dated to the same time period as our earliest texts that we already have in the Bible. So,
well, then wouldn't that be saying that the Bible is incomplete then if there's things left out?
well, technically, no, just because this is the Bible that we have right now does not make those texts any less applicable. Why does this Bible have 66? The Catholics and Orthodox have 76. The Ethiopians have 88. There's not.
I think the question that's being asked here, Beth, is what's your metric for completion of the Bible? What would you call a complete Bible? What makes it complete?
That would require an entire library, in my opinion. But that's also kind of what they consider.
So do you agree that the Bible is not the perfect infallible word of God? It's
the words. The words within the Bible are. I think that there are more texts that should have been included.
So we've got a perfect book that's incomplete and has been changed many, many times, and
that makes it just imperfect.
Right.
So there's a couple things in there. I wouldn't necessarily say it's been changed.
That's what I'm.
It,
Well,
we
I mean,
actually, we-
It
we-
has been changed for sure. We can look at there's slave Bibles. Slaves didn't get the same Bibles that freemen
Yeah,
got.
but those were stick figure drawings. They didn't
No,
read
so-
either.
They could have been really
if we're
used to
talking about the
stick
Bible,
figure
okay,
drawings.
let me change that. Let me change it a little bit here. The Bible's been changed, right? Because it's a collection of books. The books in the Bible is really what I'm referring to.
Yes.
So when we look at Genesis, you know, the Muslim, the Jews, the Christians, the Orthodox, we all have an unchanged book of Genesis that hasn't changed, and it hasn't changed through history. People didn't rewrite it. We're all translating from the original, oldest copy we can find, and I mean, at one point it was like 7 centuries, and then I think we gotten down to like the 2nd century, and we found pretty much no version of changes between that. So when I'm saying
Same with Isaiah.
it hasn't changed, I'm
Same
not
with
saying
the
the
Iliad.
Bible hasn't
Same
changed.
with, I mean,
That's a
yeah.
collection.
All you're saying is that I mean, that's a nothing statement as far as the question goes, right?
No, and I want to get to that because I actually think it's very relevant, and we can actually look at through the development of the Bible, right? So the development of the Bible first was individual books. That's where we have to start. There wasn't a Bible when the first book was written, and this goes for the New Testament too. There wasn't a New Testament either on day one. There was one book written. I think the first one was like 20 years after the death of Jesus, which was Corinthians. I could be wrong. Anybody's more than welcome to correct me if I'm incorrect on that. But it was still in the time when people were living and saw Jesus, right? So it was very close to his time. So we have the individual writings. Then we have the Torah, right? The first 6 books. So now we have 6 books that were written. How did the Torah become recognized, which would have been part of, you know, Moses and Abraham's journeys? Actually, probably more to the flavor after Moses, right, for the declaration of the Torah. Now we can sit there and we can scrutinize what became the Torah, and then we have the prophets' writings, the Septuagint. Sorry, I always pronounce that wrong. Then we have the Hebrew Bible, and then we have the Christian New Testament, and then we have the 3 different versions of that, right? Now, each of these went through different versions of canonization, right? Each one had different types of councils that actually consulted on what we should put in the Bible or not. And once again, I said at the beginning of this Bible study, I am not the smartest guy when it comes to all this. So the understanding has been fed to me, depending on which version of the legitimacy of each of these periods where we started creating Bibles that started getting bigger, especially when it came to Christianity, that we had councils that sat there and said, how many witnesses do we have to this book? Like there may have been tons of priests that were like, I know this book's divine, but then another priest is like, yeah, but we have no witnesses to that book. Therefore, we only can be sure on this particular thing. But yeah, I mean, there's many creations over here, so or through all these different versions. But I definitely can say the books didn't change inside the Bible. Which books got included have changed, and that's why we have 3 Catholic or Christian denominations that have different amount of books, because they have different criteria on what they've decided is relevant. So I'll stop there because I just went on a long.
Well, I mean, that referent would just be like, based on your denomination, you may have a different Bible, but that doesn't speak to the spirit of what the Bible is. The spirit of what the Bible is a collection of morals, right, that we're supposed to live our life by, the prescriptions to try and build a socially cohesive society from. And so I think if we're going to speak on the spirit of it, then we're not really getting into the historical and whether or not it's historically accurate or anything like that. What matters most is whether or not you take the moral prescriptions from it and you're able to take something good from it and based off the social construct and live within that realm.
Isn't that precisely
so,
what
like, what I tend to-
Jesus wanted it not to be? Wasn't Jesus specifically against people wanting
Religion?
religion? Yeah, like that's
No,
literally
religion. God never wanted religion. You know, he wanted relationship. We see that, you know, but it was them little hat people that wanted laws, and you know, that's what they got. And that's what ended up forming the religion, right? The religious element of it was the fact that they wanted these laws, do this, not this, like, so I mean, the way I look at it overall, like, and I know several atheists that would say this too, like, if you just take the Bible and strip it of its spirituality of it and the divinity of it, and you just look at it as a good way, a rule book on how to live a good life and not fuck up,
Right.
So it's still best practices. You read this is a great manual to live a good life, and here's the best practices, to enjoy that life, so
Alleged
I think
best
that's
practices.
well,
I mean, they were the best practices for 2,000 years or so.
yeah,
I mean, not for
Yeah,
everyone.
no, I would dispute that as well. I don't think any of you know what any other ancient culture's ethical system was.
Yeah, their version of the best practices, like
Sure.
Yeah, it was.
a
Yeah, it was their
kind of-
version.
But I'll say it
I mean,
again,
like, a
and
lot of
any
it,
of you
like,
can
it-
prove me wrong. I don't think anybody on this panel is familiar with any other ancient society's moral prescriptions. I don't think
Well,
there's a
where are they
comparison to them.
now? And we still have Christianity, so boom.
Well, if you look at
How we think it's
Tacitus
still-
and Tacitus's description of marriage, this is one that I looked at because Christians like to take credit for marriage and for
No.
culture. Yeah, the Germanic tribes were way more conservative or whatever in their approach towards marriage.
Yeah.
So the claim that this is the best practice, and we know because it's still here, doesn't really hold up.
Yeah.
It's just that
Well,
the Christianity
the one
usurped
that was
claim for it.
enforced. It was the one that was enforced socially in Rome at the time, as it was when Rome was like being the empire of the world, and the church slowly adopted it and like
Well, but I mean,
confirmed
there's
it later on. So I mean, you have like two entities. You have like two different entities that are championing this one thing. It's going to end up spreading around.
But also Christianity
what-
tends to take credit for things that it does not deserve credit for, and prescriptions that are not biblical prescriptions at all, like monogamy, for instance.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
the-
and like
the idea of bonding and marriage existed from the very beginning. You can even find it in pagan societies, where they actually, I mean, like, to read about some of their ceremonies, they were quite beautiful. But the covenantal marriages that existed within Judaism since the very beginning. So the idea that Christianity itself takes claims for it is that's
It's
more of like,
dishonest.
it is.
Well,
It's only because the term marriage didn't exist until what, Cleaner? The 12th century, 11th century? You and I talked about this.
no, it's like no. It was the 12th century or 13th century was whenever the whole Christian or the Catholic Church came up with it, and then later on, Cristo Valentino running around butchering people who were not following the church's prescription for how to get married, which was by going in, paying a tithe, and getting your document signed by the priest. So if you didn't do that, he went and murdered you. And
Okay,
then
so
when
we
he
can
died,
agree that that
know,
is
they
not
went back
marriage,
to-
right? That is
No.
Well, and see, that's the thing though. In the Bible, like, and I get what you're saying, Dusty. I think the Bible though is speaking to the bond between a man and a woman. And the thing is, it's always kind of spoken about that. The way that it talks about it is like the bond that is between a man and a woman. That's your woman, you're her man. That there's like a pairing, right? And I don't know if there's really any evidence to say that the Christian Bible or Catholic Bible or any of them specifically speak to monogamy only, right? I don't know that. I'm not sure
you
about
don't
that.
want to go
They
down
don't.
that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
you
why
want that, I
I'm
can go
leaving
with
it
you there.
ambiguous.
They
Right,
don't
that's why I'm
speak
leaving it
to-
ambiguous. But
They
what
don't.
it
but
speaks
it's
to
not ambiguous. It doesn't need to be left ambiguous.
what it
But,
speaks
but,
to
you know, so
is
like-
the
like
bond.
But the word
that
term
bond-
marriage does
See,
not
here's the
exist.
thing. Oh, hold on. That bond is something that we can actually see on cave walls. A picture of a man and a woman together, and a bunch of little people, i.e., children, is what we think they are because they look like little stick figure people, like following along with them. So even cavemen had a concept of the bond between a man and a woman. So this isn't something that this isn't something that Christians came up with. They may have came up with a new word for it.
Yeah.
It's
And
a function
way
of sexual
like-
reproduction.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a
Right.
word
It existed
for it.
before
Right.
human beings
But-
existed.
But
it's
the
a
part
social
that's important
formality.
about this, though, the part that's important about this is that they came up with a social construct for how people should behave when you know that a woman belongs to a man and a man belongs to a woman. Like
And
everyone should
that's what
acknowledge
I'm
that and
saying is
understand
wrong.
that, you know?
That's what I'm saying is not
Oh,
the case.
like-
They did not come up with that social construct.
So like
They came
there
up with
was no
terms
Hebrew
for it.
word for marriage
Well, they
before.
came up with a construct. They came
Yeah,
up with a construct. They
Well,
didn't.
yeah,
They just,
and
like we
I
just
think-
understood it different ways before. That's all.
Sure, and there's somebody was mentioning how they came up with the word, and there's still debate right now over like
No,
that word.
there was no
in
word for
particular.
marriage.
Sorry, real quick, and like
Right,
whether
there
like
wasn't.
whether or not that word really applies to certain couples, which is something we're actually facing right now with the potential overturning of Obergefell and making gay marriage illegal again.
So like I was saying, like there's the Hebrew, there was no Hebrew word for marriage. You know, it was like it was described by like multiple different words. Like to take was lahwa or something like that, and to take wife, woman, or to own was another way of saying it. But there was no like marriage.
Yeah, the
Right.
term
No
marriage
marriage.
exists.
So then what is adultery in a society that doesn't have a marital concept?
Well, it's to take
That's
it's
a
to take
concept.
someone else's wife. That's not
There-
yours.
Right.
the
that's
but there
what
is,
it
but
is.
there's no
doesn't want you, she
concept of
wants me.
wife.
Hang
But
on.
no, there is a concept of
Hang
a
on.
wife.
What
There
it
is a
is,
concept. The word
what it
wife
is-
is
what it is, Dusty, is that there were these unions. Okay, there were these bonds, and the structure was there. They just didn't call it marriage, and that's what Christians are taking the credit for, is the term marriage, which actually falls more into governmental shit
not.
than it does. Yes,
No,
it is.
it's not. Why would they take credit for a term? That's devoid.
Cleaner, Glenn.
They're trying
I'm
to
right.
own
For
the
real,
meaning
for
of
real.
it,
What
too.
what
They're try-
use is it? Like we
Yeah.
They made a word. All that
That's
she's
it.
saying is that they made a word and applied and gave it this social construct of what marriage is and what it's supposed to be,
okay.
based on
What
all
is-
the things that we have in history, their writings,
No.
wink right?
Look
They-
at
Okay,
look
so-
at look at look at the
Okay,
link I'm
okay,
putting back.
guys,
That's
guys.
Tacitus. Just look at the link I'm
Guys,
putting
guys,
back.
guys.
Y'all are
Can I-
talking.
can
What?
I-
They're-
Just to step back here, what does this have to do with the canonization of the Bible?
Well, I don't know, but it
Oh.
does prove that Christians are willing to lie in service of the religion, which tells them that the devil is the prince of lies, and that this world is of the devil. So the biggest religion on earth. Come on now, get your
so
cognitive
the
dissonance
Greek.
in check.
There are Greek terms for marriage, right? Like there's like gamos, that means like the wedding, right? The wedding of the marriage. Like the gamos of the lamb has come, like the wedding of the lamb has come. That's in Revelations 19:7. Gamio, to marry, literally means to take a wife in the Greek. So yes, in the New Testament there was a terms to, you know, to claim to was defined marriage. It was just, that's what it was, but not in the Old Testament.
So can I jump in on the actual like kind of try to wrap this back to the question here?
Sure.
Okay, so what you're asking about is the development from the Old Testament, and some of the questions I see here are like, why do different Christian traditions accept different canons? Does it undermine the Bible's authority? And I don't think it does. So what we see in evolution, you know, the way that human beings came about, is that depending on where you are, the Galapagos Islands, for instance, if you're there, you evolve a different way because your natural surroundings are different. You become a product of your own environment. So these different religious denominations breaking off, especially when they didn't have a way to communicate like we do now, breaking off, kind of going their own paths, interpreting things differently, establishing their own different sets of rules. Like when I was a kid, I used to go to somebody's house to play Monopoly, and they had these fucking house rules that they made up that sucked ass and things of that nature. So
That would be
the same
terrible.
idea. Yeah, same idea. You know, you go in, it's like house rule is you spend too much money on your church, then you're actually doing something wrong, and boom, you're suddenly called a Protestant or whatever. So, you know, like I don't think it undermines anything. I think it's people's interpretations, gatekeeping, differences of opinion, maybe a little bit of I want to be the leader so I can collect the money for the church and be a rich pastor that doesn't work that much or whatever. All sorts of reasons why. I just don't think it undermines the faith as a whole. I think it's a bad argument to say otherwise.
And actually, gamos was the union, not marriage. It was the union. The word has been changed over time as far as the English translation to marriage, but it was the union is what it meant.
But what the thing that's being described by the word, what's the difference?
The difference is just in conceptualizing it. That's all. But
What is
this doesn't
but what is the
like what
conceptual
Vibe was saying,
difference?
though. What Vibe was saying,
Even
though, this doesn't
conceptually,
really
what's
speak
the
to-
difference?
The difference is only that somebody decided to write down the rules and regulations of the word and what it is that it entails. That's it. That's really the only difference, dude. Because
And
like
all we did was
hold
invent a word.
on. It's the same thing as like for thousands of years we've known it's wrong to pediddle children. And now we have fucking laws against it. We didn't always. People used to just slay people for doing that shit if they didn't fucking like it and they found out about it. But we always knew it was wrong. We just didn't have laws against it. Now we do. That's all. That's all. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, right? And when it comes to marriage and things like that, I mean, we can talk about. I mean, there's another deeper conversation, right? Is humanity in the world 6,000 years old? If not, and the Bible's still true, and there were sects out there before Christianity that were recognizing marriage and things like that. That doesn't necessarily disprove that the Bible's incorrect, just because if you had God in your heart before God got this into manuscript for the world, doesn't mean that he wasn't already influencing your heart to want to be with one woman, to want to do these things. And then once he was able to breathe his word through man, that we were able to get these into books and actually solidify them as permanent law. So I think the fact that if you're going to argue that there was marriage before Christianity doesn't disprove Christianity. I don't think it's actually relevant on the canonization whatsoever. I think it's a great topic to actually have and talk about. Maybe we're going to have to add some sub episodes in here and add in marriage in the Bible. But ultimately, when it really comes down to the canonization, that's more what I'm curious about. And like, I know some details, some of the canonizations, but not all of them. So I definitely am not an expert on like why the Torah became the Torah. I wanted to research that before this particular episode, but I spent too much time with all the other parts of it. But ultimately, like from like Dusty, I could see an argument here, basically saying, all right, there's 3 versions of Christianity that all have different books in their canons. And that would be your debate. Like even we can't agree on what is accurate. My retort to that was that when we do include the same books, we include the same books. They're not translated different. They're not a different iteration. I
There
would think
actually
it's
are
criteria.
differences. We do have examples all throughout history of different edits where certain passages are added or subtracted. There's tons of
Okay, so
examples of that.
I can say there have been edits, but not edits that stuck. So everything that we're reading today, like
Are
the
you
reason
sure?
I went through this whole thing on the NASB is that this is a direct translation from the oldest versions that we have available to us. And even when we went like 3 centuries from a version that we were using earlier to a version from 3 centuries earlier, they still matched up. And we adjusted if
But-
one word was off. But
we can use the existence, right? If I just grant that there's no edits that stuck, we can use the existence of edits that happened, right? And certainly there were people that believed they had the complete Bible. We can demonstrate that the Bible actually is changeable and is not the perfect bulletproof book.
Well,
of
okay, so
God.
that actually is a perfect debate, right?
Well-
Because there are warnings in the Bible to make this unchanging. Man is fallible. Man will use this and has used the Bible multiple times for his fallibility, where he's used it to gain for himself outside of God's word, saying that it is God's word that he's going to try to exploit. That is part of one of the greatest gifts God gave us, which is free will. He could have just made us all love him, but he didn't. He actually allowed us to choose.
Now
or
we
not.
get to be tortured for eternity if we choose wrong in a game that we don't know we're playing.
Isn't it
Well, and
possible
my
also?
understanding of the
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Isn't it also possible that like what you just described, like people using it for their own suggest their own preferences and stuff? Couldn't that also be the case for the authors of the books or isn't it very likely, in fact, that that's the case for the people who are writing the books in the first place?
Well, and this is a great
Yes.
argument in that we're sitting here right now in this where I'm saying, like, I've been reading. I'm not a professional, right? I don't know necessarily how Jesus translated this. There is a level beyond this that is exactly what I want to go into in episode 2. First, I just want to say, hey, will we accept that these books are unaltered from what we're reading today and that they didn't go through translation to translation before I really do a hard argument on this? But I mean, there is a faith aspect of it where we have the Holy Spirit, right? And it guides us. But there's also some pretty good logical evidence. I lost my thought there.
Really good logical evidence.
Well, you were running down his question about canonization almost.
Yes.
You know,
Well,
Yeah. So, I mean, go ahead.
my question really would be this, because I understand that the canonization process had scrutiny over whether something was true and factual, as well as whether or not something introduced a moral, something that should be told to give people something to aspire to live their life by as well. There were a lot of metrics that they had as far as their canonization process. So what I would ask is, nowadays, as we're sitting here reading the Bible, what would you say defines completion? Would it be that we have all these stories that have all the morals and the moral prescriptions that we need to live by, and so the extra stories that were taken out, perhaps they have the same morals, but they aren't needed because we've already got these morals in what we call the complete, quote unquote, complete Bible, right?
What? I didn't
Well,
track that.
I get what
Okay,
you're
so
saying.
if you have the Bible as it's written right now, and you have, like, let's say 200 morals that are in there. I don't even know if that's right or whatever. I'm just throwing out a number. All right, and you have another book that you could add to it that would show an example of 13 of those morals that were already in the Bible. Then you don't really have a reason to put that book back into the Bible if you've already got stories that reflect those morals.
So you're saying they left out books because of redundancy?
No, I'm saying that's part of
In
the
some
metric of
cases.
canonization. And that's why I'm asking, like, right now, what would we call a complete Bible?
I don't think the Bible's the word of God, so I think that
So-
there isn't a complete Bible. My understanding is that when it was originally compiled, there was 80 books, and now there's 60 to 66, depending on your denomination.
Actually,
I would
it's
think that if
more than that.
I would think that the concept of a Bible necessarily means it's incomplete because it's an exclusionary process.
Can I ask a question about this? Because I'm a little ignorant to some of the debates that have been going on about this, but I see here that there's been some manuscript discrepancies between versions of the Bible, and the example given is Mark 16:9 through the 20s, and it's debated for its authenticity.
So
Does anyone-
that one I'm not super familiar with, but a lot of discrepancies that I tend to have a problem with come down to the fact that as they translated the words, they tried to find words that were the closest to what was being said. And I think sometimes a lot of what was being said, or some of what was being said, can get lost along the way because it's not exactly the same context as how we view it today. But that one, I don't know. Glenn, does anybody know?
Can you read it to us? Do we know the verse? I don't know.
Here.
It was Mark 16:9 through the 20s, and it's debated for.
Oh.
It doesn't say what it was.
I've heard of this, but I can't pull it.
Looking for discrepancies between different translation.
And this is why I ask the completion question, right? Because when we're looking at the Bible, do we care whether or not it is historically accurate, or whether every single word is exactly how it should be, if it still ascribes the same moral in the story for us to try and learn from and live by? Then would it not matter more that the moral itself is still purveyed and shown?
All that is like a question of the scale that he showed at the beginning. Where do you stand on this scale? Because there are some people that want to go word for word, and those would be the ones that we'd have to have this argument with.
Yeah, I'd say they're
Well-
missing the whole point of the Bible, which is to learn the morals of it.
Well,
You
isn't
know,
the issue that when it
Like
when it gets down
You
to
know?
the nitty gritty of it, like trying to enact those morals in particular situations, that suddenly, like the more granular you get, the more important that kind of wording becomes. Where like if you're trying to assign a certain moral that you are interpreting from the Bible, then the wording starts to become pretty important when you are trying to discern the particulars of that moral prescription, right?
I tend to be in the middle of this one just for the simple fact that the moral of the story is important. However, if the word that's being used kind of changes the context, I mean, like I had Steelman come and like try to argue Genesis 6:6 with me, where does he regret and wish he never made man? Because that's what it looks like he says, and it's like that's not what that word meant.
That is what that word meant, and we had this conversation later. And
Not what that word meant.
what's it mean? We can do it again real quick for the audience.
It would have meant a deep sorrow. That
Sorrow.
doesn't mean that he wishes he never did it. Just because you're sad, super sad about something, doesn't mean
Yeah.
you wish you didn't do it.
It's very,
I agree
very
with that.
strongly implied, isn't it?
No, I don't think so. at all.
You don't think it implies both that you were surprised by the thing and that you wish you hadn't done it if you're sad because of it?
No, I don't think so.
just-
No, that doesn't necessarily mean that.
It's like grief.
Like you
Yeah.
can be
So if
sorrowful
you're-
for
if
something
you're-
happening in your past and not regret it because you know it made you better or it
Right.
made someone else
But
better.
if you're God, you
Like,
chose
that's
for it
just
to
one
happen,
example.
and you knew it would happen.
Yes, because he gave us the freedom of will. That doesn't mean he's not watching us do things to ourselves and completely grieved by the decisions that we're making. That
But
doesn't.
this is-
Of
equate
course
to
it
him.
does.
That
Either he knew it. Okay, well, this is a whole free will thing that I don't want to go down. But of
all,
course
all
it does.
All this argument speaks to is the fact that you can't understand the complexity of God and God's perspective.
I would
all right,
agree with that, but that's
Because God, okay, so like as
that's
I
a tap out
understand
or a
it,
cop out.
as it has been explained to me, as I understand it, all right, God is something we can't even come close to understanding.
Then the
What we
book is
can
good for nothing.
understand, what we can understand is what God spoke to the people for how we should try and live our life to have the best life possible, to have the most moral life, to not hurt each other, to not be destroying lives, to not
To
be,
not
you know,
hurt each other. So
like,
do you think that it
be
would
good
be
people.
good
so to
people?
speak.
So do you think would it be immoral for you to kill me because I'm not Christian?
According to which religion?
Your belief,
from
your
which,
to Christianity, your belief. To all the Christians, should you kill us non-believers?
No.
Matter of fact,
Well,
Well, unless you try to
that's-
steal my food. If you try to steal my food, I'm going to stab you in the
Because-
neck.
all right,
Then,
No, I-
Eating
well,
my beans.
then
I'm
why
hungry,
does
man.
Jesus prescribe the opposite in Luke 19:27?
What is he saying? Hold on. Now you're making me do this.
yep, now you're making me do
You're-
it. too.
Okay, so real quick, I just
But
wanted to
those
see. Well, I
you're
pull this
still,
up.
you're still missing the point. The point
Oh.
isn't whether or not one person said something that contradicted something else or any
Jesus.
of that. The point of the Bible is the moral prescriptions for how we should live our lives.
Correct. That's what I'm asking about. This
Okay,
this is
can
a
I
prescription
just
by
chime in here?
Jesus.
'Cause I
He
want
said 1927.
Yes,
I want to
Luke
hop in here real quick
19:27.
because you guys were talking about the completion of it. The reason why it's
Double check.
like you would say it's completed would be because Christ was the final revelation that God had for humanity, and he reveals that already. So that's
Double
why there
check.
would be no. That's why it would be completed.
Double check that verse, Dusty, because that's not Luke.
Luke 19:27.
Yeah, that has absolutely nothing to do with killing
Yeah, it
anyone.
does. Yeah, it does. It says, "But as for these enemies of mine who did not want me to reign over them,
Oh,
bring
shit,
them
I'm gonna
here
go.
and slaughter them in my presence." But you have to read the whole thing.
Yeah,
and
you got to
it
practice
will
hermeneutics
explain
to
it.
get to understand this.
What's the
If,
whole thing? Give me the context.
If you
Hold
read,
on.
I'm not going to sit here and read the whole damn thing to you, man.
I mean,
That's-
just give me the
like, I don't
context
think
that
we're trying to-
neutralizes. What's the context that neutralizes this command?
that neutralizes this command. What do you mean? This isn't a command from God for us to live our life by.
It's
This
from
isn't like a moral
Jesus.
for us to live our life by.
He's telling a story.
This one sentence isn't a moral for us to live our life by. This is him telling a story and explaining something, and you'd have to go through the whole
Yeah.
story to understand the moral or what it is he's saying that you should understand.
Yeah, this is a whole story that he's literally telling a story about
It's
three.
the parable of the 10 minas.
Yeah,
Okay, well then my bad.
Yeah, this is what people get wrong, though, whenever they're trying to pick apart the Bible rather than take the good morals and prescriptions for how we should live. You try to tear it apart rather than look at the good that's in it and try and ascribe the good to other people.
Yeah, you'd have to, if you read the whole chapter there, all of the.
I'm reading the parable right now. Yeah, I may have gotten ahead of myself.
It's okay.
Mhm.
Don't want it to happen again.
I'll try not to. I don't like it when it happens.
Don't make Ryan get his belt. Oh man.
We're looking at Luke.
Yeah, it was Luke 19:27. I was the retard. I was looking at the wrong side of the page.
Luke 19 what?
19:27. But
Mhm.
really, you got to read kind of like it's a whole story. It's
It's about the talents. It's the parable of the talents.
Parable of the 10 minas. You got to go through the whole story to get a full understanding of what he's saying.
Yeah,
at the end.
it starts from verse 11. If you just read from verse 11 all the way down to
Yeah, this is one of the things that drives me crazy too. When people quote like a specific verse
And try to
you look
pick
at
it
the
if
verse-
we don't
you look
practice
at the
good
verse by
hermeneutics.
itself,
Christians
without
do
the
it all the
context,
time.
it's completely different.
This is the thing I complain about people all the time. They don't practice good hermeneutics at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a story when Jesus is saying that they should be doing something, and the people that were there were saying, well, we don't worship you and follow you, so we're not going to do what you say. But what he was ascribing was something that was good for the people. And he's like, well, I mean, if you're not going to do what's good for your people, then, I mean, we should get rid of you.
Well, what if I don't want to do what you think is good for the people around me?
What I think is good?
Yeah, or
You're
what
asking
you
me
interpret as
personally?
good. Whatever.
You're asking me a personal question. What
No,
would I do,
well,
or what you do?
Well, I guess I'm speaking like in terms of using, like, if a society's using the Bible to determine what's good, and like I disagree about like what they're saying is good based on their interpretation of the Bible, like I don't want them to get rid of
That's
me,
the
right?
problem that we've been running into for millenniums.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Well, that's why the Bible has a prescription for that as well. God will deal with the spiritual when you get to God, but mankind can try and deal with mankind and create a law for mankind to hold them to a standard. So it says the word of God, the law of God is above the law of man. But that is because when you pass, you will have to go to God and stand before him in order to go to heaven or wherever you're supposed to go. But here on earth, the law of man, we obviously have to follow the law of man as long as it doesn't conflict with the law of God. As long as it doesn't tell us to do something that's against the law of God. Like if you came up with a law that said, whenever somebody runs a red light in front of you, you have to run them down and kill them, right? Well, that would be against God. So we wouldn't do that. We'd say, well, fuck that law. I'll go to jail for it.
But it would be morally good.
Well, the whole point
No.
behind a lot of
I'm
these
just
stories too. The whole point behind a lot of these stories too is actually to call out those who mismanage or do things that are directly harmful to their people. Do you let someone stay in power when they're doing something that's mismanaging things that affect everybody's lives?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think
That's
whenever
all
people
too.
try to cherry pick the Bible, they get away from the morals that are trying to be taught by the story or parable or thesis or whatever it is that is being picked apart. People who cherry pick tend to be doing that and only that instead of taking the moral that it's trying to say and saying, okay, well, that moral seems like a shitty moral or a good moral, which I think is that's the real thing that we should be talking about here, is whether or not these morals apply to our society nowadays.
I don't know. That kind of sounds like, well, Cuba had a good literacy rate. Like, if it's a good moral, then the story shouldn't be feed your wife poison, and if the baby dies, then
Correct.
you were right to think that she was cheating. So, I think that cherry picking out those egregious things is necessary to show that. And this can be explained. Like, if you just aren't a literalist as to what's in the Bible, you can say, yes, of course, man has written these things. If there was some sort of divine intervention inspiring it, maybe that divine intervention knew the limits of man at the time and just kept it within the realm they know. Like, slavery is what the practice is right now. So here's some ways to do that until your society is advanced enough to get rid of this.
Sure.
So
I get what you're saying, yeah.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't think you
What-
need to go that route.
So if we're going to be extrapolating moral meanings from stories, which I do agree, actually, that is the purpose of it. What should we extrapolate from the story of Abraham and his baby mama?
Well, I think that would probably be something for another time, since we're discussing like what is the Bible right now, and not so much like specific parables. And
Well, I
whatnot.
mean, you guys are saying it's moral prescriptions.
well,
and I'm
just to
saying-
keep it on point, you know.
Well,
What was the question again, Flo?
Abraham and his the story of Abraham and his baby mama.
sending
Which
away
one?
Ishmael and his
Yeah.
mother.
Ishmael?
Abraham and the no paying child support.
Yeah, well, God blessed both of his children. You see that God, like Ishmael is blessed too.
Ishmael
no-
creates a whole
Ishmael didn't have to go. You see
civilization.
how blessed Ishmael was. Ishmael didn't have to go take a hike with Daddy and then lay up on the altar and then like look at Daddy with a knife in his hand. He didn't have to do that. Ishmael get out of it.
which also is another bad moral prescription.
Just saying.
That one is something that's something I'd happily argue with you sometime. But the whole idea too is Ishmael goes on to create a whole new civilization.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is
Yeah.
kind of our
Pretty
our
fucking
first
blessed,
split,
if you ask me.
right?
Yeah, it's a pretty
Even-
big.
Even
Blessing.
though, despite the fact that Abraham was a deadbeat dad,
Was
just
he?
like God is, I guess.
But was he though? Was he?
Wasn't?
Was
Yeah.
he, or what was he though, or
What,
is that
did he
just your
provide?
interpretation?
I mean, I would
Yeah.
argue he wasn't, right? He was blessed.
I mean,
by
he
God,
was a
followed
rich
God,
man.
and God blessed all his children.
Right. Sure.
What
So
he
that's
said about-
independent of Abraham. Abraham's actions as a father was to be a deadbeat dad.
How you say that? Because he like
How-
raised his
okay.
son for.
How
know, a
like
few
why
years.
is it that you're saying he was a deadbeat dad? Why are you saying he was a deadbeat dad?
Because he sent Ishmael and Ishmael's mom away.
And why did
With
he do
a
that?
lot of monies. Like
What
how
was
many
the
goats they
reason?
probably took with them and lamb?
Maybe he
What,
wasn't
what
a
was
father
the reason? What was the reason for him doing that?
because God told him to be a deadbeat dad.
God told him to send them away. Okay,
Yes.
and so we don't know why God did that because we can't ask God.
Right.
So-
I'm just
so
saying.
you're
I'm just
saying-
saying. We as individual humans, what is the moral that we can pull away from this? God. I mean, being an absentee father is, I mean, pretty consistent actually throughout.
All you could
The
pull away
religion.
from that was that he followed the word of God and did what God, like the Almighty Creator, comes to you in front of you and tells you,
Mhm.
look, Flo, you have to pick up a fucking rock. It only has to be half a pound, but you have to pick up a rock and carry it around for the rest of your life. And if you do that, you will live a long and prosperous life.
You don't think that
You
we
gonna do
can
it?
And you don't think we can and should
Are you going to do it?
listen to me?
Are you
You don't
going to
think
do
we
it?
can and should
Are you going to do it?
get moral takeaways from this?
Just
Of course,
answer my
of
question.
course, I would. The question
I
is,
would
why was
too.
this written down for us to learn from? What is it that people be learning from this story?
because they follow exactly what God tells them to do. And even with Hagar, she's
And
looking
God
for water.
told them
She's
to
looking
do
for-
something that is morally abhorrent to most people.
When Hagar is looking for water, God comes to her and says, "Don't be grieved, don't be afraid. From your son, a whole new line of descendants is going to come. Like
so
a whole
what?
nation." Think
So
about-
what? That has nothing to do. Just because somebody else was nice to her doesn't mean that Abraham didn't treat her poorly.
I'm not even arguing that he didn't treat her poorly. I'm not arguing that he didn't. Okay.
I mean, I'm pointing out to the more if this book is to teach us good morals that we're supposed to decipher from there, what do we decipher from that story?
What you decipher from that story is if the Almighty Creator comes before you and tells you to fucking do something, you fucking do that thing.
Well, if that happens, you don't need to have read a book to know that. You just go, "Oh shit, this is fucking God right here."
It also
Well,
documents
it's just
where
giving an
that line-
example so that people can see,
Yeah.
okay, this is what happened. This is what you should do. If your Creator comes before you,
Yeah.
you should do what your
Right.
Creator tells you.
But that's what I'm saying. You don't need to be told that. If you have the creator in
you?
front of you, no, you don't.
Some people
No.
may. Some
Couldn't
people
he
may.
tell you that?
But
If-
Some people may need to
Is
be
it
told
also-
that.
It
The only
also
people who need
tells
to be told that are being told that by humans, by other
Yeah.
Some
humans.
people, yeah, and it was other humans who decided to include that in the Bible.
So if I would listen to you, another human, why do you think I wouldn't listen to God? That's an absurdity.
I wouldn't
It
make that
also
assumption.
tells the roots of where that civilization originated out of.
So is it a historical document or is it a moral
Actually, it is.
document?
The Bible's broken up into like 5
Yeah.
different sections. If you really wanted to know, you
Yeah.
got like
Go.
I can
Then
even
go.
show you where
You got
other
this,
I mean,
man.
civilizations I went and found where other civilizations documented the same stories that happen in the Bible, and from their own perspectives.
Like a giant flood.
Yes.
So I mean,
that
okay,
one-
real quick, you guys. You have like the
Actually,
patriarchs, you
I
have
got
the
you on that.
historical books.
I
You
got
got
you
like
on
the
that.
wisdom.
Guess what? So the
Oh.
Epic of Gilgamesh dates to
Mhm.
when? About 10,000 BC, right? The 10th century.
Oldest
or
book, I think.
It's the 10th century. Okay, no, it's not. Actually, at the same time that okay, where is it here? I wrote this shit down because I was even like surprised by this. All right, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest fragments are from 1800 BCE, okay? In the 9th century, 9th, 10th century BCE, we have both the Tel Dan inscription, which literally refers to the house of David, house of Israel. It's the oldest reference to them, literally word for word. And this is so that's the same time frame. And then
What do you mean
also
word for word? It says the house of
That's-
Israel.
the house of Israel, the house of David.
Okay.
David was over 3,000 years after Noah's Ark.
David
Okay,
is his name. It's
King David of Israel was already documented by another civilization in the 9th century BCE.
Okay.
Okay, Noah's Ark was 3,000 years before that, but the Epic
Okay.
of Gilgamesh is at the same time as the
But
Stela is.
Epic of Gilgamesh is an entire story, and those are just references, right?
So, okay, this is what he said. Tyler said the Epic of Gilgamesh is the oldest flood. No, he said it's one
I
of the
said
oldest
that.
flood stories. He
There's
said it's one of
no
the-
actual proof that a big
not.
flood happened.
So Noah's Ark actually, by the time you have the Epic of Gilgamesh being written, you are already over 3,000 years ahead in Hebrew history that is being documented by other civilizations, and there's multiple instances of this, from the Tel Dan inscription, the Mesha Stela, Cyrus.
By the time
New.
what you're saying though is wrong. But the oldest,
Not wrong.
the oldest Gilgamesh, the oldest whole epic we have, is not as old as a reference to David.
Actually, it is not as old. Yeah, no, it's the same
The
time.
reference to David is older than the oldest entire epic of Gilgamesh we have.
9th century BC compared
Older,
to
right.
18th. Yeah, they're
Yes.
same time. They're right all in the same bunch. You've got multiple different civilizations that document where the Hebrews are, including the
Yeah.
Moabite stone It's a Phoenician script from the 9th century that gives a non-biblical perspective of the events from 2 Kings. So
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of actual historic events that are referenced in the Bible. Nobody's denying that. I don't think. I'm not.
And there's
certainly.
a lot of historical events that happen in the Bible that are documented outside of the Bible. I think that's what Beth's saying.
And a
And
lot that
they
aren't.
line up with the stories
Correct.
that everyone likes to jump to, like the Epic of Gilgamesh was written when like 3,000 years after the story is already established within the Hebrew.
You don't think that the House of David can be referenced without the entire story having taken place? Maybe there's several different houses of David. Regardless, I won't disagree that there most of the Bible stories, there's a counterpart in other cultures, except for Moses, if I remember
This
correctly.
is
I think that's
referring-
the only one that's not mirrored anywhere else.
This is referring to the king of Israel. Full on. That's why it says House of David, House of Israel. This is a direct reference to David being the king of Israel. There was
I'm not
one king
disputing
of
what you're
Israel.
saying. I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm sort of playing devil's advocate against your assumption that there's only ever been one David, king of Israel. If we look at the way that royalty works, names are repeated over and over and over again. So I'm not even trying to argue whether or not they're putting that David. I just
We have the Line of Kings documented.
Yes, we do. It's documented a number of different
Or
ways
is-
in the Bible. Actually, the Bible doesn't even agree with itself.
All right. So,
Right. Got interrupted for a second.
kind of once again bringing back into like what is the Bible? I think we kind of all agree that the Bible exists. I don't think there's much disagreement on that the Bible is mistranslated. That's gone through like 10, 20, 30 different translations, and what we're reading today is completely inaccurate from day one. I mean, would anybody disagree with that?
I would say it's probably mostly accurate. It may not be completely accurate, but it's probably mostly accurate.
I would agree with that. We have historical documents. I think they're pretty provable, right? That it's a book and it exists. And
It's a book and it exists. Yeah.
No doubt.
right?
That's,
So, I mean,
if that's as far as we can agree, this is going to be a long series.
well, no, I mean,
But yes,
One of the-
I agree with those.
one of the big points is, I mean, there are a lot of skeptics out there that actually believe that it's gone through like all these different translations and that the telephone game happened, right? And the version that we're reading today isn't the version that was the same version as the first version that was written, or at least the first copy that we have that was written, right? And I am trying to put a pin in saying that I think we all agree that we don't really have translation problems anymore when it comes to word for word. However, I think we can say there could be translation problems when you're looking at different sects of Christianity. So the Orthodox would say there is actually no problem here because they believe that they know exactly what every scripture means. And I love that idea. Because I don't want to have to read the Bible and go, let me figure out what this means. I would love for somebody to actually tell me what Jesus or God actually meant by that passage. I don't feel like I should have to figure it out. But on the Protestant side, right, we have that side where we have to be touched from a higher power and we have to have iron around us. Iron sharpens iron. Men with men studying scripture can, through the Holy Spirit, actually understand what the true meaning is behind all of these passages. And we do tend to conclude when we come together versus stepping outside of the box, playing God and going, well, I want to pick and choose from this Bible and believe it the way I want to believe it so it fits my worldview. This would be one of the problems that the Orthodox have with Protestants, saying that Protestants can just make up anything they want by their interpretation of the Bible. But what I do want to step into, and for episode 2, is really on the crux of asking about the divinity and how we can actually say this is something that is real. This is something that's from God. And how can we prove that that's something from God? A lot of this stuff was hit on during this episode. We definitely have a lot more to unbox, a lot more to explore. So, I mean, we were on topic, we were off topic. We did explore a lot of different things there. But I do want to kind of wrap it up into some final thoughts on when we're just looking at what is the Bible. I think everybody did actually give their opinions there, but maybe we can wrap some of this up with some closing reflections on what that is and what you expect from episode 2, where we actually do start talking about the divinity of the Bible. So how are us on the faith side going to prove to you that not only now that we know we have a historical record that we think is fairly accurate with maybe some canonization problems between different religions, but books that if they are factual, how do we put God behind the author of that? And that's really where I want to go next week. God as the author. So we've kind of come to this conclusion today, but get everybody's kind of closing reflections on that. And let's go backwards and let's start with Glenn.
Wait, what? What was the last part?
God.
Pay attention, Glenn.
So
No, like I heard
Kidding.
most of it, but I just didn't get the last part. Like, okay, like what were we expecting for episode 2?
So episode 2, I really actually want to go into the divinity of the Bible.
Yeah.
Right?
So then
today
how are we?
So it's kind of the closing reflections on today. I mean, today is really about just like talking about the canonization of the Bible. What is the Bible? Is it a story? Is it a science book? Is it this? Dusty actually asked about that earlier, and we know it's a collection of stories. It is a collection of history. That history includes testimonies. It's a book of poetry, prophecy, and letters that were sent out, right, in the New Testament. So really, we're kind of looking at, like, basically saying the word that we're looking at today is accurate. Next episode, we're looking at trying to figure out the divinity of those words, and looking for the reflections from the panelists on today's conversation.
Yeah, so I would say that just like I said in the beginning, what the Bible is basic instructions before leaving Earth, and I still look at it as the same thing. I think that God gave us this how to live life guide by, and we have it's like a cheat code. We have the cheat code right here. We can just follow the cheat code. And like next week when I'm thinking about getting into the divinity of things, I think that how we have to prove to them that there's divinity in this. I don't think I have to prove anything. I think the Bible proves itself. When does God ever need me to do something for him? Like, it's the other way around. So I'll let him speak for himself.
I would tap out beforehand too, because
it's not even my fight,
it's an unwinnable fight. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Go.
Taylor.
Flo's gonna be like he's gonna be a Baptist pastor in like 3 years. Watch.
He will.
So more or less what we all agree on here is the morals and worldview that comes out of this is an overall good. It seems like we just kind of disagree on our level of belief and level of interpretation of these things. Generally, even if there are mix-ups in different versions of the Bible and disagreements, I don't see that as invalidating on its own, because it's been a long time with people that didn't communicate, a long game of telephone. So I don't even see the mix-ups and altercations and gatekeeping as invalidating. I just, at the end of the day, think that we are taking away from humanity and human beings. This is a system, an ideology that we came up with that, again, as Glenn said, gives us a cheat code, at least a certain type of person, a cheat code to live their life in a morally good, structured way that takes them out of the ambiguous gray areas, provides them a route to aspire to be a better person. And so for that, I'm not against it. I just don't believe the stories that are backing it. And again, you guys are going to have a hard sell turning me around on that. Tomorrow is where we're going to start to really see disagreement, because I don't see any tangible proof that anything is backed by some sort of divinity. So I'm hoping for some challenge there. That's all I can say for tomorrow.
All right, Ryan.
Yeah, I think that similar to what they were saying, I think what we agree on is that they are text written down by people, at least prescribing morals, largely, or at least it seems like generally they're used as moral documents to help provide people some moral shape to how to live their lives. Whether those morals are good or bad in effect is certainly a whole different discussion. I don't know that I'd buy into what Tyler said necessarily. That we agree these are even. I mean, there are obviously good morals, but I don't know that I would even attribute those to the Bible. As I think they're kind of like the Bible is maybe embodying things that you could simply reason yourself into. Again, there also seems to be a lot of historical things that are in there, a lot of things that are substantiated, a lot of things that aren't. But in general, it seems like a document that is used to prescribe some sort of moral structure to people's lives. And again, that can be good or bad, but I would prefer still that people approach their moral systems in a more nuanced way than just like these stories like are the end all be all of morality. I think morality is a living project that we have to continue like we figure out through living our lives and through all sorts of supporting documents, not just one book.
I think the Bible is basically all the things originally first described, except the divine word of God. I think that it has some historical parts, it has some poetry parts, it has some rules, it's got a bit of everything. Ultimately, though, and maybe by design, because people treat it as a moral authority or an idol, and because it is so big, people, it's very useful for anybody to find basic support for basically whatever they care to find. I think if I understood the purpose of this right, or maybe if I interpret what I believe the purpose of this episode to be, to Vibe, I think that he's trying to establish that we can trust that the Bible now is accurate to what the Bible was originally. And I do think that largely, at least in my mind, you can move forward with the assumption that translations have not been radically changed. However, there has been so many years and so many translations and so many moving parts to this book that it's easily exploitable, right? On either side, you can say that prophet doesn't mean prophet, and even if it does, regardless, what I'm saying is both sides can exploit the fact that it is old, it is huge, and it is translated. So it really is. It creates quite the predicament because you can never get around the fact that it incentivizes people to exploit that ambiguity for their own purposes. Also, just a side note, I did look up every instance in which prophet is used in the NSAB, I believe, Bible, and hold on. 6 of them, just reading the verse in which the word is used, not reading the context at all. 6 out of 17, I'm sorry, 6 out of 13 specifically mention financial wealth in the same verse. 7 of them heavily imply it. And 3 of them seem to use profit just as a generic benefit term. So it is safe to assume that profit probably means profit.
Good. That is cool. I would definitely go verse by verse and be like, what word was used in this, especially because we have situations where you've got multiple words that mean similar things, same things. I'm not discounting what you said. I believe what you said. Okay.
But what you started off doing was resisting that word means what it means.
No, that's not what I said. I said, that's not what I said, Dusty. Okay. I said, I freaking agree with you. I personally like to look up what the word actually was. I know. I also, by the way, like a lot of what Ryan said, and I like a lot of what you said, Dusty, because I think that it should be more of a library and less of a single book, right? Even when we go to libraries, religious texts tend to be the smallest section that you can find within libraries. Whereas I don't discount any of the stories, even if you want to look into what, other religions say. I think it's kind of important to look at the contrasts. And no, seriously, Dusty, I'm not discounting what you said, and I'm not resisting what you said.
Stop resisting. You're struggling.
No, you're supposed to say submit, woman.
I only say that to Lindsay because I want her to cry about it for the next 12 months.
So I do appreciate that we have the most concise texts in one collection. However, personally, I mean, I have a copy of Dead Sea Scrolls right there on my freaking shelf next to my bed. I do see the value in looking into more text than just what we have in the Bible that was given to us. But it's fun chatting with you guys.
Can I do an addendum, Vibe? I forgot one little part.
I'm just kidding.
Make it quick.
Okay.
Well-
I think that I think that the Bible has a lot more utility when it's not used as a moral compass. I think that the morality embedded in it is highly questionable, and that people pick and choose out of it what they want to claim as Christian morality versus not Christian morality. But I do think, though, that if you get away from the impulse to use it as a rule book, then you can read it with more nuanced understanding of the message trying to be conveyed. That's all.
I agree with you, Dusty, completely. How about that?
Cleaner.
That's better. That's all I've ever wanted from you.
My take's probably going to be pretty crazy. The Bible can and will be cherry picked for people to attack the religion with fallacious and or semi-fallacious refutations or arguments. That's always happened. It always will happen. It has moral prescriptions for how to live as a society. And if you have issues understanding it, you should talk with a member of clergy to get guidance on the interpretation. People misunderstanding the Bible's placement. It is a product of the church. The church and religion is there without the Bible, but the Bible is not there without the church. Faith is what matters, and that is what the church teaches.
My God, I couldn't have a better wrap up there. But that would be a wrap up for us of faith. And I mean, I find it interesting because I personally don't believe that the Bible should be a pick and choose definition of morals. And I think that's where a lot of the debates come when it comes to Christians and secularists, right? Secularists go, well, we can pick and choose when we discuss with each other and we don't like this particular thing anymore because today I want to lower the age of sleeping with women or raise the age of sleeping with women because now our moral ethics all agree that we've changed our moral ethics. I do like an unchanging moral framework, and I don't believe that if I'm going to be a Christian that I get to pick and choose. I think the second I pick and choose, then all of a sudden I am no longer a Christian. But I also, to what Cleaner said, I am a layman. I am an ant. I do not understand God's word completely. I'm always struggling to understand it. I do have to go to my elders and my pastors and ask about verses and phrases, and I do understand that there are multiple sects. So I even have to every once in a while go, is the one that I'm in is the right one, right? And that's why it's good to have these discords and have everybody talk. But in the end, as far as this episode and my concern, some people may razz me on this, but I think we got to win in that we're all pretty much in agreement that what we're going to be talking about from this episode moving forward is pretty accurate. No, I don't think anybody on here is saying it's 100% accurate, but I think we can actually agree from moving into the next pieces that we are all talking about text that we feel that is mostly unaltered from its original hand, whether that hand be of man or be of God. And I mean, as I said, this whole thing was basically based to build on building blocks. And so I think we actually really did define a really good first building block to step into the next part, which is, where did this actually come from? Did it come from the word of man, or did it come from the word of God? And I actually prepped for that one, which was the original episode 1, for weeks. So I have a lot more ammo on that one. I didn't have much ammo on this one, so hopefully we're going to really dig into it on that. But from there, I would like to open it up for just a little bit to the chat to peg any questions to either side, and I can post those up on the stream. If anybody wants to jump into the conversation, go ahead and throw the question out there, and we'll post it there and see what the panel says. And I don't know if anybody else has anything to add into that closing while I wait for some chats here. But I'm pretty excited by the first episode.
I just dropped a question into your chat in all caps.
Really?
Yeah, no, I apologize for my douchebaggery.
Gaslighting himself.
There we go.
We're... Please
Answer for your crimes.
Hey, I'm just trying to, I have questions when I read. I mean, I am faithful because I have something beyond just, I'm very logical, and one of the reasons I switched to the NASB version is it was amazing when I switched to that version, because I felt like when I was reading the Bible for the first time in that version, I felt like it made a lot more sense to my logic and understanding, instead of having this translated version of like message versus message. I feel like God touched my heart, and I felt like I had a lot of understanding in there, but those are feels. And I understand when talking to atheists, and I have a lot of atheist friends, I've had some that have converted, that feels is not enough for them to take that next step. And you do have to give them some type of logic. So yeah, I will step on my feet quite a bit, probably in all 12 episodes, because I will throw my atheist hat on and throw the areas that I have read and my areas where I go, wait, that one didn't make sense to me. I'll throw that out there. But that doesn't mean I actually didn't get an answer, just to help other people that have had the same questions come to the same conclusions that I did in the end.
That's fair. I think somebody in the chat said something at the beginning of the show that I thought was very interesting, that I would very much like to touch on. You say science and believing in science, digging deeper into science, wouldn't that conflict with religion? And what I found, and I have a number of degrees, I've done a whole lot of things with science. I very much enjoy research and design, research and development, coming up with new things, learning new things. But the deeper and deeper that I dig into science, the more and more I understand that we're only three-dimensional. To try and understand God is like you're going to try and add 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 dimensions to get to where God's at. We can't even understand a fourth dimensional being. You can't even understand quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement, where two particles are actually affected by a fourth dimension, but we can't understand how they could be on other sides of the universe from each other, and still one forces the other to spin in the same exact motion it does. So if we can't even understand something as simple as the next dimension up, how the hell would you think that you could understand God?
1000% agree. And which then leads me to the conclusion, why then, if I agree with that, which I do, people who are pretending it's something else, like the Bible authors in all religions, are necessarily lying to me, or I'll give them a bit of that. They're misinformed.
Misguided at best.
Right.
How convenient. Everyone's just too stupid to get it that doesn't get it.
I think it's reasonable to believe that we're too stupid to understand the nature of God, just like an ant can't understand calculus. I think that probably we can't understand why we're here. That's reasonable.
I think if you're like, our senses might simply not have access to those dimensions, right? Like it might just be that we literally can't conceptualize whatever this thing that we're pointing to is. And I mean, we just
when ants put a rocket on the moon, that comparison will land with me.
Well, I mean, I think what Dusty's saying is fair, though. Whenever you look at the reality of what it is he's saying,
we didn't put a rocket on the moon.
What he's saying is basically just really simple. You can't understand God. All you can understand is what God has shown us, or what we understand to be of God, and that's pretty much it. We can try and understand that, but we can't understand God. Like, God is something so far beyond us. We can only understand our limited capabilities of understanding of what he shows us. That's it.
I mean, one of the things I always kind of feel like, God, we were supposedly made in the image of God. And he wants us to be like him and to love him. And I think he wants, like, if he understands everything, he's in this other dimension. I think he wants us to also, like, every time we make a new scientific discovery, when we look at quantum physics, I think he smiles and he's like, they're getting closer to figuring out and being more like me, even on the science level. Like, not just being like, the greatest virtue in the morals, right, is if I'm unaffected by this outside stimulants of sex and anger and all these different things, right? That is a higher being in mind. And when you get to that higher being in mind, and you're looking at science, and then you're going to higher being of, like, trying to go outside dimensions, these are all things I think he really wants us to discover and find. And the basic teachings, he's teaching us like we're ants. He's like, can you just guys stop doing the stupid stuff first? so I can expose the really cool stuff for you. And some of us have figured that out, and we're learning some really great things. And I think he smiles every time. And I think science and God go hand in hand. How did he create all this stuff? I do want to point to Animated Effigy's question here. He does say, how can you say the Bible is correct, the correct set of books, when the books were chosen by a council of men who let out the books that said they didn't have power? And I mean, this is a good question, right? But we could also
That's a
say,
fair question.
how did the first book get written by a man? So if we do have these councils, and they are pure in their faith in God, and they are led by the Holy Spirit, which the book that they're even reading was written by a man that was led by the Holy Spirit. We have to have some faith in looking at the history of the councils that were put together, that they also had that same God-breathed logic to make the conclusions, put these books together. If we don't believe that, if we believe that the first book was divinely written, then how can we not believe that the council that was put together was divinely put together? And I think there are arguments against this as well, where we can find some councils that did change and didn't do it right. I think there are books in there that might need to be in there, and maybe the councils got wrong, but you did have a group of people. Beth, go ahead. I see it.
I was waiting for you to finish. Just marking my place. Go ahead, finish.
She peed on the
and
book.
I actually am really interested in some of those things. I mentioned it earlier in the whole conversation, that there were certain standards that, like, the group of people said, these are the standards we're gonna meet. Doesn't mean that everybody in it felt like there weren't more books that should be in there, but the global consensus standard was between all the people. They said these are the standards it has to meet, even if we think it's holy. If it doesn't meet these standards, we're not going to put it in there, because we want to err on the side of making sure we're putting in the correct
So
stuff.
their standards outweigh the word of God.
That's what I was going to ask.
I raised my.
Well, no, I mean, I pointed that out before too, because there's something divine. If a book can be divinely inspired, then a council can also be divinely inspired.
Who else has
But you
this
gotta
divine
shit. You gotta shit or get off that.
fairy
high.
dust that anyone can just get? Apparently, can I get
You know
some?
what?
Can I be divinely inspired?
That's
Oh
that's
yeah,
a
I
fair
got you.
question.
Poof. Where's my?
That's a fair question, and I would say that that's why the church teaches that the faith is the most important part of it, not necessarily knowing everything in the Bible and picking it apart and knowing whether everything is historically accurate or whatever. You know, it's your faith. Your faith is what matters most.
You
Yeah.
see me drop some of that divine inspiration on you? Poof, poof, poof. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
It'll last the rest of the day. Everything you do the rest of the day is divinely inspired.
Are you the new
Bless you,
poop?
Dusty.
Are you
And
the
also
new
do
poop?
you.
You're the new poop, aren't you, Dusty? You're the new
The
poop.
new poop.
Yeah.
I suppose if you want to, I will accept that title.
I want,
Better than the old poop.
I mean, honestly, I would say, like, if there were any powdered dusties of that day, God would have intervened and made sure he wasn't on the council.
There was a powder dusty of that day. His name was
There
Jesus,
was.
and they executed him because he was a pain in the ass.
A
he
radical
is
man.
descended from Constantine, after all. I mean, just saying.
All right, Beth, go ahead.
I was gonna throw in food for thought. Now I'm afraid the Christians are all gonna get mad at me when I do. Titus Atticus, who was a Roman book publisher and bookseller who actually used slaves to reproduce and copy books, and that was from about 110 to 32 BCE, charged for 500 lines of text, charged the same amount of money that it took to feed a family of 4 for 1 year.
I
Just
don't
to
care.
write
Yeah.
500.
That I don't at all believe that's why they chose to leave out books.
That it was a contributing factor. I'm not
If they
saying it
let
was-
budget leave out books, then I got news for you about the
I think-
validity of the divine inspiration.
Well, I mean, you could say that, Beth. You could, but Johann Gutenberg came out with the printing press and gave books out for free, damn near.
There isn't a dollar value on the word of God.
I mean,
Beth.
You know,
Amen,
there's
brother.
two
Hang on, hang on,
sides
hang
to
on.
all I'm saying.
Wow, even the atheists
That's
got
it.
mad at me. I said, number one, it's a contributing factor. All of, literally most historians agree with this. Okay,
I don't know why God can't
Come
manage
down
his
to it.
finances.
when it did
So
come
true.
down, just smart ass.
He made it. He made everything in all of existence, but
When it-
every Sunday the crescendo is that he's like your broke cousin who didn't pay you back the last time, but swears that if you just loan him some more money, he'll get you
Yeah,
next
I
week.
mean,
When it did
Yeah,
come down to it, this is one of the things that the council was considering when they were deciding what books they were or were not going to put into the Bible. That's why they said if these two things say the same thing.
That is not a divine consideration.
I agree with you on that, actually. Okay. I actually agree with you. I think a lot of books got left out that shouldn't have been. The Gospel of Thomas is dated to the same exact.
then you're
fucking-
saying that the Bible is not complete.
But
Well, there's
I mean,
also
if
the
that's the
question of
case,
fraud.
then
Or
why
you're saying
didn't
that
they
it's
just-
lacking something. If
Which-
you're saying there's books that should have been in there, that means then the Bible is lacking.
Blasphemy.
Which
if
Bible is
If that's the
complete?
case, though, my question would be, why didn't they just sum it up into like, I don't know, 10, 15 pages of the Book of Morals, and then we just had a Book of Morals for how we should live, rather than all
The
these
Spark
stories and all
Notes?
that. You know?
Yeah,
yeah,
Bill
yeah.
Right.
Like,
Which
I just
Bible
have-
is complete?
I
Guys?
want to
Tell me.
want to
There's
say one thing real
66,
quick about the.
76,
That's also a
88.
good question.
There's also.
So you think
the-
like the church will be like, hey, we can't afford you guys printing this, but you know what? If you don't print all the words that you're supposed to, you're going to hell. And I think that would be very motivational. They wouldn't even have to get them
Might
to pay
be.
for it.
Originally, these books, the extra books, the Dead Sea Scrolls, would have been contained in libraries where all of these texts were. Okay, and when it came down to we are going to have a concise Bible, the council picked in what went
What
in.
the hell makes you think it's concise?
I
There's this
I
fraud.
know.
Hold on. Let me get this point out real quick because there's also the fraud component. I don't
Christian
know how.
hate me right now. I hope you understand that.
I don't know how this council would parse out what's fraud and what's not. Maybe the facts wouldn't line up or whatever. But if somebody
No, it
felt
wasn't.
like they could solidify their name in stone by being part of the Bible, don't you think that would inspire people to write fake passages and try to get their name in? And that
That's
could be
very
something
possible.
else. It's just how would they delineate what's fraudulent or not is another question that begs.
It's very possible. And Abe Dinkus, actually, if you go check out Westhoff, the oldest copy of it's literally right in there. And it's not that it was considered to be a forgery, it's that they considered it to be not what they want. They didn't agree with the aspect that it was written from or something along those lines. I think it's cope just because they don't like what it says. It's
But that's-
And I
actually
do-
a really
I-
good read.
that
I
just
want to
brings-
add that Abe did say, or am I mistaken? So he wasn't sure about that particular statement.
Yeah,
I don't
no.
want to throw him under the bus like he's just saying that as a fact.
Even Westhoff agrees that the oldest copy of Thomas dates to the exact same grouping as the rest of the Gospels that were found in the caves at Qumran. So
Oh, a religious
But
apologist
just because
agrees
it's dated
with
the
the
same
religion.
doesn't make it accurate.
Come-
oh, I understand that.
yeah,
Have you read
so-
it? It's really actually good.
No, I have not read it, but I mean,
I was asking Glenn.
oh,
Yeah, and just to be fair to correction, what historians actually say is that this is most likely how they came up with it. They don't know for sure
Yeah.
this
Of
is how they
course.
came up with it. They say this is most likely what
of
happened.
course,
Correct.
of course, yeah. I mean, I think that was assumed.
Well, I just like to correct because the language matters, and I don't want somebody to go tearing into Beth's ass because
Fair.
she said, "Well, this is what they're saying it is." You know.
I mean, I would do it for recreation, but I don't. Yeah, no, I get what
I
you
know
said.
you would. Yeah, no, it's like I said, there's a lot of contributing factors as to why several different books were not included in, which is also why you see 66 books in one Bible, 76 books in another Bible, 88 books in the Ethiopian Bible, and then that doesn't account for the Dead Sea Scrolls on top of that, or at least
But-
about half of them, I think, right? Is it about half that aren't included in the Ethiopian Bible?
Is the faith all sola scriptura though? Is that
Well-
all it is? You read it and so then you have faith because you read something?
No.
So then I mean the question of completion, the question of actualization, the question of divinity, do these questions matter as far as whether or not you're going to have faith in the thing?
Not in my opinion,
So
which is why
I
I'm
don't-
okay with saying this.
this is why I don't understand why there's so much argument about the little nitpicking things. If we all understand that like there's supposed to be some good things that we're supposed to take from it. Yeah, okay, maybe there's some things that the way that we interpret it don't sound good, and that's fair because we're open to fallible interpretations. But if we don't understand it correctly and we have questions, then ask somebody who's been studying that shit for like their whole fucking life and get their perspective on it. And they might actually be able to teach you something. You might be able to learn something and actually take a good moral away from something that you thought was actually something horrible and atrocious, but isn't.
Sure, I think there's something to that, but I think it's also possible that like the moral that comes from it is bad. Like the moral that was written into these things, since they are like, you know, as like the atheists in the panel, they see it like they are not like divinely inspired. They're just written by people. Like it's perfectly plausible. It's perfectly plausible that like there were actually what we would like ultimately, even if we fully understood the intention and whatever, like all of these things, like that we would still perceive this to be a bad moral, right? We could still perceive there to be bad ideas in the Bible. I think that's like, but I mean, I agree that you can learn a lot from it, but that, yeah, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like I think it's something that we need to engage with.
Like, were you referring to like a church father or like
I'm not pointing to any specific moral lesson. I'm just saying in general.
Ryan, I'm talking about Cleaner when he was talking about like.
Yeah, I was saying you should probably sit down with a member of clergy because I mean they've been studying that stuff for a long time. And I'm not saying that they're like the only authority that could get it right, you know, but they're gonna have the best chance of giving you the most insightful understanding of it.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Like I believe that people that study it and like meditate on it regularly, I mean, those are the ones that you should, you know, lean on for clarity if there's something confusing or you're not understanding what the passage is trying to, you know, say there. But see, but that's a slippery slope because then you get the, you know, the group of people that don't know what the hell is in the Bible and they'll just tell you to go ask the priest. So then you're like, what the fuck do you believe in? Well, whatever
I get that.
Says. You know,
I get that, Glenn, but I mean that's the same thing as like us having us saying that we should have accountability buddies. You know, you could pick a bad accountability buddy and they could lead you astray. Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, we're men, we're fallible. We could pick the wrong man to be our mentor in something. That's fully possible, you know, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have the intent to do better and the intent to try.
Yeah. And then there's also,
I agree. Like, I mean, that's why, I think church leadership is important and like pastors and like mentors are important. But you can't even, like I said, like you mentioned, you can't even fully trust them. You have to verify their work. Like fact check. It's always about fact checks.
Yeah, because they have different agendas which can automatically declare illegitimacy of some things, which actually historically have plenty of backing. So it all depends on where what their agenda or goal is with things, right? And that goes for every person. I'm not trying to knock anybody with it.
I think the only issue I take with all that, all of that whole conversation kind of presumes that there is some like true moral, like some moral truth at the root of the text that we're referring to.
No,
that
wasn't what was said. It was saying if you don't understand something, then ask somebody who's been studying it for a long time. The same way, like if you don't understand the law, you'd get a lawyer to defend you in court, you know, or something like that.
Listen to what he's saying there.
If you don't understand algebra, you're gonna talk.
If you don't, but all those things are actual things, right? If you don't understand the Bible, maybe it's because the Bible is wrong. Why would you go to an expert to convince you that the Bible is not wrong?
Yeah, or like what is like if the thing that I'm learning ultimately is still something that I perceive that I still like outside of my, because I don't have faith.
Give me an
like
example.
I still think it's if I still think it's bad to like what? Sorry, you're asking for a specific.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No. You're asking a fair question.
Like, can you present the question in a way that like not just like vaguely, so I could actually kind of.
Basically, what he's saying is,
I just don't know the Bible well enough to like point to a specific thing.
basically what he's saying, Glenn, is like if you find something in the Bible and it looks very questionable, and you think the morals of it are actually bad morals, you know, should you go to the church and try and bring? Well, absolutely, you should go to the church or the clergy or whatever and try and bring it up, because maybe you found something in the Bible that was actually something that should be taken out or something like that.
No,
Who knows?
sorry,
I
sorry,
don't know.
Timmy, I'm not actually
That's
saying
what I
that.
would
I'm
say.
saying that even if you go through the clergy and you learn, like, you come to some conclusion going through those things, you find like the most accurate reading, you find like the most the consensus or whatever, like that could still be a morally bad thing from my worldview, and that like why I wouldn't see any reason to
Oh,
take
okay.
I wouldn't see any
I
reason
see.
to enact that moral system, like just because it comes from this story, right? Or these
Right.
books.
You're talking about when one set of beliefs has a moral that collides with another set of beliefs and they contradict each other in some way.
If I'm not a Muslim, why would I go to an imam to help me understand why Islam is right?
Right. You would want to go to somebody of the faith that you are in, or you are talking about, or looking into, or trying to understand, in order to understand what it is that you're reading, right?
Or you could just understand it for yourself, because
Yeah.
God gave you logic and God gave you experience, but God didn't give you the Bible. Somebody else did to try to give themselves authority. I mean, you have little faith.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. What I would say though is this: if you approach the Bible in an attack way, and you're trying to say that there are negative things in it, and I'm going to go after it and try and find the negative things, guess what? You'll find negative things. If you go at the
Sure.
Bible and you say, okay, I want to try and pull the good morals out of it, the ones that I believe are good, you'll find the good morals in it.
But that
it's just
relies
called
on a
confirmation bias.
but that
That's all it
relies
is.
on that relies on a pre-existing good person, right?
No, not necessarily. No, if you're trying to find a good moral in a text of any kind, you can find a good moral. If you're trying
Correct.
to find a bad moral in a text of any kind, you can find a bad moral.
Correct.
That's what
and
I'm
the way that
saying.
it's applied depends on whether or not the person doing it is doing it with pre-existing good intentions or bad intentions.
Oh, right. I thought you were
Yeah.
meaning like the person who wrote it. I get
No,
what you
no.
mean
I
now.
mean the
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the effect, right? So that
Right.
good or bad, that was their. That's a prerequisite. The Bible doesn't
Right.
actually add.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you at either. I would say, yeah, I mean, but that would speak to the confirmation bias side, where like if you're looking for something bad, your intent is bad. You don't have the intent to find something good, so you won't. Or if you do, you'll try and refute it and discard it. I get what you're saying, yeah. But and I think that's kind of interesting that you say it like that, because that does kind of speak to what Ryan's saying. Because like if you have two religions like Islam and Christianity, and Islam says, well, it's okay to slaughter everybody who doesn't believe in our religion. Christianity is like, no, dude, you should try and talk them into believing, or at least following our moral prescriptions, so that it's better for their life. Like this is all about trying to make people live within a social construct, and adhere to rules in the social construct, so we can all live in peace. And then this other religion is saying, yeah, but since you don't believe what we do, we're just going to fucking take all your women, we're going to grape them, have our own kids with them, and we're going to kill all your men. And so you would have like two opposing religions there. Well, I don't know what you do there other than like defend your home.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, you could, and within that society, we could see Mad Max turn out, and the Second Amendment's great for helping us stop that shit. So,
But in reality, if you believe that God commanded something, then you do the thing God commanded. You don't worry about.
true.
Right? You get
Sure.
rid of your baby mama and your son, and
Yeah. No,
and
that's fair.
So I don't
yeah,
think
sure.
that the preferable nature of Christianity to Islam for secularists does anything to validate the gaudiness of it.
No, I was bringing the two up just because I was trying to show what Ryan was talking about when he was saying, like, if you have two religions or you have two belief structures and they conflict on this one moral that you found or something, I was just saying, I don't know, I guess in that case, like, yeah, I mean, since you would be kind of reading it and taking your own morals from it, or maybe even going to the church or a church and taking a moral from it, and it may conflict with what you personally believe, then I guess as long as it's not destroying your life, just believe the way that you're believing. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I personally, I would say try to adhere to the social construct that's there, that is producing the best positive for children in society and for the women and the men in society. I mean, That's what I would say.
Real quick, Flo, I knew I needed to correct you on this. He didn't just like send his kid away. His kid was 16 years old. All right, he was damn near a grown ass man at that time. All right,
Did he help him pay for college?
Yeah, he helped him count sheep and goats.
Did he put him in his first
We all
car?
go coach, yes, he did.
Yeah. You know, like he even sent his
Okay.
mom to college with him so she could make his bed and shit.
So okay, so fine. He raised his son all the way to 16. That's well past how old Mary was when God. Never mind. The point, but that's still a dickhead move to do, to not talk to your son anymore.
Who said they didn't talk no more? He said, "You grown. Get out of here now."
He didn't say that to Isaac.
So I got a super chat here that I think is kind of leads. It wasn't really framed as a question necessarily, but I think it's a good one anyway. It was Def Not for 999 says, I think if the Bible told them they must murder, hopefully they would not do so. In the end, they decide they align with this thing and take it on as part of their beliefs because they feel it's right. I think that's an interesting point. Like if the Bible said that, like, if the Bible was like pretty clear that, like, you know, for some reason that you needed to kill radical coders, like, should I run for the hills? Like,
Kill
are you
Umbreon.
guys- yeah, or my boy, you know, like that. I guess.
anybody want to-
Yeah, go ahead.
Any of the Christians want to tell them about the Old Testament?
Well, no,
I was just
exactly,
about to
right?
say,
Like, yeah.
if God told us that to go after Radical Coders crew, yes, you guys should run for the hills, because the story is we will win, we will get your land, and we will dominate your territory. That is Old Testament. That is exactly what happened when Moses took the Jews out of
Egypt.
Egypt.
I mean, really, like, just think about
Took
the
him 40
question
years,
you're
but
asking. Like, Ryan, think about the question you're asking. If a multi-dimensional being that we call God comes down and tells a mass of people, go annihilate all radical coders, a multi-dimensional being that we call God comes
I would
and
be- I'd
tells
be
An
on
them
board.
alleged
that,
multidimensional
I'd
being.
fucking
I
do
might
it.
say you.
I would
I'd say
fucking do
we
it.
should commit this guy. He's schizophrenic. He thinks
I
that
would
the creator of the
do it.
universe is
I feel
talking to him,
bad,
but
I'd
but-
feel
but-
bad, but I'd
and he
do
wants
it
to
too,
kill me for
okay?
it. That's crazy.
I would
Fuck
do it.
you.
Hey, Ryan.
Let's add
Look,
something to this.
I-
If
hey,
we
man.
actually look at the journey that Moses took, it was 40 years, and God proved himself over and over and over to a mass of people before they took over, right? It wasn't just like one guy got this message, woke up in the morning, he's like, I think God told me to kill everybody and go take this land. No, he said, save these people first, bring those people with you. Now let me prove and give you guys laws before I send you this land. Let me see how you guys misbehave. Let me punish you and show you how you misbehave. And let me talk to you again over 40 years. So this wasn't like a one-day schizophrenic, like, go take over this country, like, type of
See,
movement.
this is why I
It's like
say
mass
that
delusion. Then
I got a
this is why I
question
say
about that.
Christianity, or well, religion entirely, gives people shit values. The justification practice you just did there is crazy.
yeah.
Hold on, let me.
I can give a
Ryan.
better justification practice, and that's that, you know, at least one of these groups of people was literally slaughtering infants as sacrifices.
That's always what they say. However, we know that the Jews practice that because Abraham wasn't really too concerned. Like, he didn't question, maybe this isn't God telling me to do this.
What are
Okay, I got a question. So, Ryan,
Mhm.
if for some reason, like, the government came down to you, let's say the president came to you and said, you know what, here's a gun, you're going to war, you're going to go kill them sons of bitches now. Are you not going to obey the president?
No, president's not a king in America. No, I mean, if I don't, I mean, he's gonna kill me if I don't. Maybe.
You got drafted.
The whole point is, like, would you not? Let's say he's a king. Let's say we have a king, they tell you to go do it.
Again, he's gonna
Whatever
kill me
the
if I
king
don't.
do.
Then I guess I have to. Or
There's
I'm
gonna be there will
killed.
be some consequence if you don't. You don't know.
So since this is just after panel banter, I'm gonna go bow out to eat dinner.
All good. Take it
No,
easy,
if
man.
you go,
Good seeing
then
you.
Radical Coder has to
Stay
shoot
safe.
you.
Hey, you still got divine inspiration, so whatever you have tonight's probably gonna be good as shit.
Thank you. Thank
Hold
you.
on,
for
Ryan,
sticking
so-
with that.
Would
Yeah.
You, would you do it? Would you obey?
I
Stay
mean,
safe, Tyler.
I would try not to if I see it as something that's morally important. I would try to find a way not to do it.
But at
That's
the end
fair.
of the day, if you had,
Yeah, I mean,
You're in that situation.
within reason, I would probably do like self-preservation. I mean, there might be some limit where I'm like, fuck it, dude, just take me out. I can't do this. But like, in general, I would try to preserve my life.
okay.
Selfish.
Yeah,
So
I'm
what's the
selfish.
difference?
I am interested in continuing to exist. Well,
So
and
then
I think
what's
that's
the difference?
that we could argue that's kind of the same logic that you guys are using, except for it's also packaging in an assumption that there's an afterlife that has that, like, what your decisions here are deciding how that afterlife is in a way, right?
No, it could just be like, look, if you don't obey, you're gonna die. They're gonna kill
It's what they're doing is they're literally behaving in a Luciferian fashion. What'd Satan get kicked out of heaven for? Trying to be God. What do you do when you have a religious person claiming to know what God wants and to be doing, acting on behalf of God? They're being Luciferian.
Like the Pope, you mean?
Exactly.
the Pope. For sure.
Yeah, the king of the Catholics. Yeah, the guy they worship and idolize.
The king, absolutely. Like that's the pinnacle of that behavior for sure. But it's not exclusively to him. Just because he's worse doesn't mean that you're not the same. Actually,
I'm
you
definitely not the same.
let me.
I'm different.
Yeah. You to the audience. Actually, most of the people on this panel are pretty reasonable, and including you, because I thought when you opened your statement with nothing can change your mind, I was like, well, this is gonna be fun. But you're actually pretty intellectually honest. So aside from that,
I tend to be. Yeah.
so then why would you have the position that nothing new could change? Like, you're literally closed to new information. You're done.
No,
You've
no.
just-
I'm not close to new information. I choose to believe in God, and nothing can ever change that. Now,
So
you can teach me science and cool stuff here in the universe, but I don't within my worldview, there is baked in that I do not believe there is anyone here on this three-dimensional existence that could try and change my belief in God. Could God try and change my belief in him? Oh, hell yeah. That's totally possible because he's God. I couldn't do anything about that. Could a person here? No, because that's faith. It's not science. That's the
Right.
differentiation.
You don't think it's an intellectually dishonest position to say that, to have that position that you have? Like, wouldn't God even want you to follow truth regardless of the comfort of where it takes you?
Well, let me ask you this, all right? And I understand what you're saying. This question will kind of answer your question. So when you're like 2 or 3 and your parents tell you in the concept of Santa, and like you believe in it, but it's not necessarily real, right? But then later on, and you don't see any way as a 2 or 3-year-old that they could be wrong about that Santa couldn't exist, because the whole story, the whole construct we have around Santa is just like so perfectly built so that people can understand it. It's magic and it's all this and all that, right? And so you don't see any way to believe that it couldn't exist. But then later on, as you get older, somebody shows you logic and reason, and you understand, oh, okay, well, Santa doesn't exist. So what I'm saying is this, all right, I choose to have this belief, and I listen to what people say. And yeah, there's always the chance, I would say, that somebody in the future could possibly in some way teach me something massively contradictory to God existing. There's always that chance. I just don't believe in that. I don't believe in
You
that
don't think
chance.
it's likely to happen. So you're not saying that you will resist that information if you encounter it. You're saying where you're
If someone
at
is actually right, if someone's actually capable of showing me that there's no such thing as God in some way, then I would have no choice but to believe it, because it would be factually true if it was factually true. But if it's not
Well,
factually true, then
people
why
may
should I
form
believe
beliefs.
that?
I mean,
You know?
that's a good question for the religious people, but I mean,
True. Yeah. That's fair. No, that's completely fair. And I think that's the thing that gets secularist and religious people so caught up all the time, is because like religious people understand that God is an objective truth for them, and secularists understand that books are an objective truth, trees are an objective truth.
No.
But
That's
God,
it's a
God
misrepresentation of everything.
Yeah.
but no.
So
secularists-
both Ryan and Dusty there were like, no, books are not our religion.
Yeah.
But I like where you're going.
No,
Peter, but I'm curious.
I'm saying like books are a factual thing, not like what's in them is factual, but that they exist. Like they are an objective. They're
You don't
in
think
reality.
that books
You
exist?
can see them.
What?
No, what I'm explaining to you is the differentiation between the objective and the subjective understanding of God within the secular and the religious mindset. In the religious mindset, God is an objective truth.
Which
In
is
the
a
secular
subjective
mindset,
decision. Which is a
In the
subjective decision.
in the mindset of the secular, it's a subjective truth.
The fact that it's a mindset
It
and,
doesn't
and something that
matter.
you choose,
It
it's
doesn't-
a subjective
I get
choice.
that. I get that's what you're saying. It doesn't matter though. If you're not able to understand the two mindsets, then you end up having a
No.
breakdown in an argument or
Correct.
debate.
Now, why don't you understand that mindset is a subjective one?
I'm not saying it's not. I never said it was not.
I think he conceded that in a secularist view, it's subjective. In a faith view, it's objective.
Mhm.
But oh my
That's
God, but it's
exactly what I
not-
just said. Yeah.
How can you have a objective subjective thing?
Come
That's
join
the
our.
part-
I'm
That's
not
the
going to
part
join.
that-
I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid.
See, that's what I'm saying though.
Not
That's
thirsty.
the difference in the understanding.
Right.
And because of that difference in understanding, it makes it very hard for people to have these conversations coming from the two radical opposite ends of the spectrum.
So what do you mean when you say it's an objective truth?
It is a fact. God is a fact.
Okay. The cognitive
What does that
dissonance. I'm
mean?
going to shut up. I got to get out of here before I start being rude.
Well, I mean, if you can't prove to me that God isn't a fact, then why should I not believe in God?
You
see what
can't
I'm
prove
saying?
it. You can't prove a
That's-
negative.
You can't prove
I
there's
mean,
a teapot
thing-
orbiting Venus or whatever, right? Isn't that like?
And
Yeah.
I can't prove that
I've seen that teapot.
a woman
By the way,
loves
the tea is delicious.
I can't
I
I
bet.
can't prove that a woman loves me. I can choose to believe in that though. I can choose to have faith in that.
Which would be the wrong thing to do if in fact she did not love you, right?
Well, it might be, but you might still have that belief or view. Lots of men over the ages
Right.
have been subjected
So
to
when
that.
you say that you have an objective worldview, all you're saying is I'm deciding that I want to. You're just endorsing your own cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, well, you would have to prove to me that it's cognitive dissonance for me to concede that it's cognitive dissonance.
I mean, the
You see what
fact
I'm
that
saying?
the fact that you're going to believe it regardless shows that you are accepting of cognitive dissonance. Should it be there?
No, it doesn't. It shows that I choose to believe that there is an extra dimensional power called God that we cannot
Satan
even
is the
come
prince of
close to
lies.
understanding that created us. But I
You-
mean, I look at it from a scientific point of view myself, and that's why I get there.
Can you prove Santa is fake?
And I never believed in Santa either, by the way, because
It-
no matter what my parents told me, that fat man cannot fit down the chimney.
Yes, you can prove that Santa's fake by telling all the parents not to give their kids gifts and tell them they're from Santa. And when they wake up on Christmas Day, no gifts will show up.
Maybe-
You can
maybe
tell the
he just-
world.
Maybe he
That,
just decided
um,
not to deliver presents because you were investigating too hard. He didn't.
You were, you're.
Yeah,
Hey,
just because
He didn't want to get
because,
caught.
Okay, and Ryan, I understand the argument you're making, and this is what I'll say to you. Yes, we can come up with some kind of idea understanding to prove or disprove Santa. All right, but you can't come up with something for me to actually not believe in God.
Right. And you set Christmas Day back to after people die, which is conveniently just out of provable reach.
Well,
That's exactly
So-
where I would put it if I were manipulative and trying to scumbag people, by the way.
Well, we know things like Christmas trees are part of the pagan religions, not part of anything in the Bible, right? So when we celebrate Christmas as a Christian and we put up a Christmas tree, do you think we're disrespecting God?
I don't.
That's not the intent. No.
No, exactly, and God knows your intent, and for us that are faith based, if I confess to God my sin, I don't go to heaven unless God knows in my heart I actually am truly resentful for that, right? If I'm on death row and I actually don't care that I, PDA'd or PDF'd or killed or whatever I did, if I just said it to try to get into heaven, I don't go to heaven.
Right.
It's not words; it's what's in your heart. And part of Christianity and the faith, and I think some of the things that Cleaner's kind of going to is there's a phase that we're at, and when you start reading scripture and you start getting into it, I think that Dusty would say is part of brainwashing, but we would say is actually opening our hearts to being able to understand how we always have been and what our hearts desire, which is being connected with our Father. But to regress back to like the science piece too, and as far as the proving of God, if you look at
Is
something as
Emmett
simple as
here? Where's that
optimism-
bird coming from?
Oh, that's me. Sorry, my window's open.
Emmett have
Thank
bird.
God you guys don't hear the chickens. They're usually going off around this time too. If you look at like something like Occam's razor and you look at the creation of the universe, it actually makes a lot more sense for neither the Big Bang or God to have existed. It makes more sense for nothing to have ever existed, ever. The Big Bang is just a really crazy theory, and God is really crazy theory as well. And it doesn't mean that they can't actually work, that they have to be separated. They can actually work together.
I think the Big Bang like makes less sense than creation.
It's a pretty crazy theory.
It's
and so is God.
the God. It's the exact
only
same thing,
difference is-
except nothing before.
No,
The Big,
I
Big
actually
Bang
agree with you, Dusty.
doesn't have the Holy Spirit. It's just a
the
thought.
problem with the problem with the Big Bang, and this is something that when you start diving,
It was a
like-
Catholic priest that came up with it, by the way.
when you start diving deeper into quantum theory and understanding entropy and how entropy works, you'll understand that like once all matter is stable in one spot, there's no reason why it would excite and suddenly combust. So why would the Big Bang have happened unless there was an outside influence of some kind, you know? And then that's where it becomes like, okay, so there had to be something else that sparked it off, and now we're back at God.
Well, okay, so this is the interesting thing too, right? And I'm going to play the atheist side here. So
We
God
got it.
exists in science, and they call it X, and X is the unsolvable, right? So this equation, this and this equals X. Sometimes we actually can solve for X. Sometimes we have equations that can't solve for X. People that are in the secularist atheist view will always go, well, when we can't solve for it, then that's when Christians go, well, it's God. But I mean, it is something bigger, and it is something extraordinary. And X doesn't speak to me on a regular basis, but somehow God does. I don't know.
Allegedly.
The issue is that in both of these scenarios we have unknowns, and in both of these scenarios we just fill in the gap with some actually very basic ass guess. If you look at, I mean, all evolution is like different breeding, micro changes, expanded. All God is your family unit expanded. Both of them are basic speculations that are simple enough that like I think neither of them are probably true. Probably we don't know, and we shouldn't lie to ourselves and claim we know things and then stop looking. Like,
And that's even why in the scientific area that there's been this, huge movement with people that are studying science, especially like evolution, where they see these things happening, but they don't believe in God, and they introduce the word intelligent design because they still want to maintain their atheism. But they go, well, there's something intelligent behind this, because how does, like, if you look at evolution, and little some things like a giraffe's neck getting long for a child is very easy to understand. Like it reaches a little higher, the next one gets a little bit better. There's other things in evolution that are such drastic, like
Well, that
the variations between A and B.
Well, I think
have
the giraffe
no-
one's interesting because I think that was kind of Darwinian, the Darwinian theory of. I know about this because I taught a module on this back when I was doing an after school program I taught at. But like the intuition that giraffes were getting like longer and longer because they were like trying to. I think what it was more that like giraffes with the ones with longer necks just had access, or more likely to pass down those genes because they had access to
Correct.
food.
No, their
Right?
necks
It's
didn't
not
get longer
necessarily that,
because
like-
they stretched. They got
Yeah,
longer
exactly.
because
It's not
ones
like
that
you
had
stretch
longer
and say your
necks
children could also stretch.
Right.
more.
survived better.
So it's a
Yeah, they
different
could
thing.
get the higher food that like elephants and other animals couldn't get to from the top of the trees, so they survived and were able to propagate the species.
But we also have the phenomenon of spontaneous change in a species, like with the moths in London.
Sure.
Where it all of a sudden they just changed. They adapted outside of the standard, like
What moths in London?
I'm not familiar with this.
so there's the black moths. I'll have to look this up because this was just going off the top of my head, but this wasn't, and this is something that's actually been reprovable in science as well, where a particular species can just almost change in one generation, not through gradual, not that, they had one black moth. So the smog was getting really bad and the dust and everything like that. So the white moths would get eaten. It would normally take several generations for those white moths to be wiped out and the black moths to survive with all the soot and be better. But what they saw, like through like one iteration, they all changed black. This is kind of counterintuitive to the standard evolutionary, where there was one born. And I'd have to look up the study, but I can send it to you guys.
It's actually not. It's just proving it in real time for us to be able to see it in quick time. That's all. It's not actually a deviation from how our understanding of evolutionary selection works. Evolutionary selection is just like, as you go through the ages, people live or things live because they survived, because they were able to survive. And so those like subclasses of DNA were the things that continued to be propagated on the planet. All you're seeing is that happening right now in front of you, as opposed to it taking like 100 years. That's all. But we also have beings that, from what we can tell, have actually been alive for like thousands of years that don't look like they've ever changed. Like the
Horseshoe
immortal
crab?
jellyfish. Yeah, the horseshoe crab.
Well, the horseshoe
immortal
crab again
jellyfish,
is another. It's another interesting one, because they actually have changed a lot. Like they just don't have a lot of visual changes, right? So like internally, there are like the fossils of horseshoe crabs from like 1,000 years ago. They actually are quite different in a lot of ways than the modern ones. So like
they're filtering
about that.
Yeah, the way they wasn't it like the way they filter the plankton and biomatter out of the water has changed. It was massive.
I know they have different like skeletal structures in like internally.
Yeah. There's been a lot of things that have changed, but there's been a lot of things that haven't too. All this is showing is that through evolutionary selection, there have been times in history when things have been selected out because something happened and there was no longer a food source or something for that. But that's why I always come back to God, because our DNA is so massively fucking random number generation that anything could come out of us. And when it does come out, that could be the thing that survives the next wave of whatever it is that's trying to wipe us out.
It just sounds like definitionally God of the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that it sounds like that, and to some degree, I don't even necessarily disagree that there is some understanding of God of the gaps in there, but it's literally just the RNG of DNA, the random number generator of DNA. That's really all it is. You have a certain number of chromosomes that'll be passed on and DNA structures that'll be passed on within a family, and those will be the ones that can come out. However, we also know that through happenings, whatever they are, cosmic influence, whatever the fuck it is, we have some certain small things that happen that aren't normal. But
and I'd have to say that
they create offshoots that survive.
I mean, I like that you agreed with God of the gaps, right? Because let's say everybody on this panel did believe in God, but we didn't understand everything. It's always going to be the God of the gaps. Just because there's a gap, did we create God? That's not necessarily the question. We know that we don't understand things. We, on the side of believing in God, we know that He understands everything. We don't necessarily say God exists because there's a gap. We just know that, well, there's a gap that we're trying to figure out. We know He gets it. We got to figure it out someday.
Well, I guess that's kind of the frustration from our perspective, is that like it's almost like a cudgel to explain it. It's like, well, and you're like you're defining anything outside of the realm of understanding as
no. Here's the thing, though, we're not. So like we've got a pretty good understanding of physics and gravity, right? At one time, gravity was only an observation. Carl Sagan wrote a book, and He told this story about when he was a kid. He was carrying a wagon and he had a ball in the wagon, and when he rolled the wagon, the ball rolled to the back, and he asked
We know
his
we
dad, who was a
understand physics.
physicist.
Well,
What's
we
that?
think
We know we understand physics. That's not what
we
he's.
thought
No,
we
but-
understood
but when
gravity.
the ball rolled to the back, and he asked his dad, he said, "Why did that roll to the back?" And his dad said, "Nobody knows." And his dad was a physicist. He goes, "But we call it inertia. Object at rest tends to stay at rest, and object in motion tends to stay in motion." We at the time that he was explaining this to Carl Sagan when he was a kid, we didn't have as good of an understanding of like the bending of space, and now we actually do have an understanding of that stuff where we're starting to see why gravity might exist. We have
And
theories of
we have,
why
like, a
gravity
theory
might
of
exist,
space-time,
but
right?
just because
even
we
that-
know it exists, I still can say that's God. Even
Sure.
when there's not a gap, I can still,
exactly.
It's
You're
it's not
you're
like I
like
just use God for the gaps. I can use God for the non-gaps as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, because there's not. It's not. You can't disprove it. Sure, God's everything. God. The
Yeah.
only reason that you can make the claim hinges on the gaps.
No,
and
claim doesn't
also,
hinge on the
but
gap.
the only time the gap is acknowledged is when we want you to explain your beliefs that don't make sense. There's like, well, we can't understand the mind of God. Well, that's what I'm saying, but you've been sitting here this whole time trying to explain to me the mind of God. Now you can't understand it all of a sudden.
The claim doesn't hinge on the gaps, though, Dusty. That's where you're wrong. We are created in the image of God, so we're not a gap. We're here. We're factually here. We're not a gap. Like all of the things in the known universe, we contribute to being created by God.
I
And
know.
So we're
But
not
that
we're not-
attribution
like
lives
what
in the
you're
gap.
saying. No,
yeah, the idea that we
the
are
attribution.
in the image of
the
God feels like
attribution
that
doesn't-
exists in the gap.
My
God-
point, though,
God
is the
exists
God
somewhere we
gaps
can't
is-
understand. That's all I know.
the God gaps is kind of irrelevant in my mind, in the fact that even if we discover what that gap is, we still contribute that to God. So, and there's always going to be
That's what
gaps.
we're saying.
I mean, even with science, right? There's
mean, we're-
always going to be gaps. There's always going to be an X. There's always going to be an unknown. I think we can both agree, and I think both our faiths believe in the same thing. We have gaps, and we don't have gaps. We don't only go that God covers the gaps. We go, He covers everything. So, I mean, I find the argument like unrelevant. Like, I didn't create God to fill a gap.
Yeah.
Well, you did actually. You created God, or you adopted God to appease your wife, who is concerned about the anxiety surrounding her gap.
No, I didn't.
Pause.
I
Don't
adopted,
mind the gap.
I adopted God a long time ago.
Did not see that.
Not you. I'm talking to Vibe. Vibe
Oh.
adopted religion because his wife had anxiety about his soul, as does mine. Right. So I'm there. I'm just trying to get her to get over the anxiety. I'm not.
What do you think about my soul? Where am I going?
Umbreon is Satan.
Umbreon's like,
so.
I don't care, pet me.
That's real.
I don't care, human, just pet me.
And I will.
All right, guys. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up here for the night.
Sure.
I do want to put on here one more time. Where did it go? I want to make sure I plug everybody properly. Did I close it? I must have closed it. Let me open this back up so I can put all your channels up here. And I'll let you guys all close out as well with your final thoughts. I am excited about going into, I think, the really fun stuff we're going to get into starting at 5, but I do think we did set a good baseline here today. Let's go. Where is my slide here with all your guys' stuff? Sorry, I did close it. Tried to have everything prepared ahead of time here. And I would like to thank everybody in the chat and everybody that actually did subscribe. We got quite a few subscribers today. Those watching on other channels, I don't want to steal anybody's super chats or donos, so feel free to watch on those channels. But if you did watch and you did enjoy, come over to my channel, at least subscribe. Get me some subs there so I can get more YouTube capabilities, because it is based on numbers. And here we go. I got my slide. And this is the one I want to show.
I'm gonna post Vibes link in my chat. So I'm also live right now.
And Vibe is linked in the title of my stream right now. So subscribe to Vibe if you haven't subscribed to Vibe, but send super chats to me since he doesn't have super chats yet.
I do have it externally through Streamlabs. I don't know if anybody tried it. If they did, tell me, because none of them popped up, or maybe just nobody cares. That's fine.
You're welcome for that alley oop.
But if you did enjoy this, I definitely want you to subscribe to everybody here, because everybody makes this show possible. Everybody's just important. I mean, Beth has been amazing. She's like my mother on this channel. When we did our first Meet the Host, she's the one that made sure everybody jumped up. We still have to find John Mooseman. He was super excited. I don't know where he went. Sad to not see him here on episode 1, but make sure you subscribe to everybody.
Especially me.
Definitely. Yeah, I don't think Powdered needs any more.
What?
So I'll remove him from the next subscriber. Like,
Dusty viewers, come over to the Radical Coder stream. All right.
no, I love him, and
Everybody subscribe to
one of the
everybody.
reasons I want some subs is so I can actually redirect the channels. I don't have that ability yet, but if anybody does want a raid, you can shout it out in the closing statement. I'll post it in the back chat. I'll post it in the chat and pin it for anybody to go over to. And oh, there's Benjamin Balderson. He's actually going to be on one of the episodes, and he is not a Christian, but he is religious. So I think it's going to be really fun to have his.
Where's your
views.
dono link?
I thought I pinned it. Did I not?
I don't even see it on the about. Yeah, no, I don't see it anywhere.
Oh, I didn't put it
Not
on the
on the
about.
white
I thought I posted it and pinned it. Maybe that's why nothing came through. Yeah, so that would be, and it should have posted. My bot should have been posting the Discord and
That's coming through.
some of the other ones, but let's see. I've got the dono in apps, widgets, donation settings. And I'm cool. Like I really want this to be informational. I'm not like looking to make a lot of money, but I wouldn't mind getting one of those Shure microphones. I think that would be kind of nice. So if
So we
anybody
got to
wants-
do a fundraiser because this setup was $400, and that was right after Christmas, so it was on sale. So
yeah, I think more important than your camera, I think is definitely your microphone. If your voice isn't coming through good and you can't make your points and people can't hear you, you're completely losing. But here's the. I'll put it in the chat right now.
completely losing.
Completely. Major L.
Not a redeeming element there.
I think Mike makes a lot of difference.
Mhm.
A good mic makes a good difference.
Yep.
And no, it was not just the mic. It was the mic, the boom, and the headphones.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought this was a very enjoyable conversation.
I hope Cleaner comes back again. He's an awesome voice to have in on this.
Yeah, he was good.
Well, if Balderson, or sorry, if
Mosman.
John doesn't come back, maybe we've got a replacement here.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I vote yes for that. Nothing against John Mosman. John Mosman's cool too.
I think John Mosman.
Why do
is
you
in the
hate
debate right
John?
now.
Yeah,
I
what's your
don't
beef
hate
with
John.
John? Can you?
Oh, come on. I'll fight you both. Got no beef with John. I just been friends with Cleaner for a long time.
I can't believe you'd say that about John.
That's really bad. He's gonna be devastated.
No.
I like
I've got a friend.
I like John. I like Cleaner a lot too. I value what he
Oh,
says.
Lord.
Mosman had like
Thing.
I think a
Look at
debate
that.
going on.
It's crazy.
Like atheist of atheists.
Flo just got me down to
Did it-
$390 on my microphone.
Did it work?
Yeah, it
it
popped up. Did you guys not see it on the screen?
I was
Alright.
on my
I
phone
was
looking at
looking
it.
elsewhere.
No, but right
I
on.
was looking at this screen.
I just had to test it out.
I actually think I know Dusty was on when I joined Sarah's first panel. I know Dusty was there, and he said, "Come over to my channel." At the end, and when I said I was new, I think Ryan might have been there, and I think Cleaner was on the second panel that I was on Sarah's channel.
Hmm.
So
I'm always there.
Both. I was in the background. I didn't hop up on panel for the first. I hopped up on panel for the second.
So I love how the universe comes together. Kind of reminds me of God.
Kind of reminds me of me and Katie.
All right, who wants to close out?
I'm good.
I will fulfill the stream. Thank you for having me. Look forward to it next time. If you're not subscribed to me, the Powder Dusty, and if you're on my side and you're not subscribed to any of them,
Fix it.
find them. Yeah, yep.
Anybody
Well,
want
Live
to
is
post
linked
a
in the
rate?
description box or in the.
Oh, I think-
sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Flo got one thing right. He did, meet his obligations for the stream. So good job.
Thank you for the reminder.
Thanks everybody for coming out, and look forward to next week.
Tomorrow.
It'll be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have not been convinced to convert to Christianity, but maybe in a few more weeks, you'll change my position on that.
Not with Umbreon there. That little devil dog is going to keep you living in sin.
He's whispering in my ear, "Do not convert. Do not fall for it."
All right. But I am still. I'm going to stay live for. I don't think I'll probably go much longer. But if people want to come join, I am still going to be live on mine for a little bit after.
Yeah, so if you want to see, obviously you can go to either Powder Dusty or Radical Coder. We're both streaming, competing for your viewership. Although I might end up hopping, if he has a panel, I might actually end up hopping on that. So we'll see.
Or you guys could just be smart, come over to my channel where we're gonna be playing Spin That Wheel. You guys know the game.
What's that
Spin
mean?
Wheel. Oh yeah, we're gonna.
What do you
have fun.
do?
I don't.
Who's
know the
taking their
game.
clothes off?
You better come
I
over.
know
and
one
find
of the
out.
options is DGen story time.
Well, then
It's
you
his
need a
first chapter
DJ.
Bible study. Because we're gonna read the songs of Psalm.
All right, I'm gonna drop off and talk to my chat. Be safe, guys. Thanks again,
Later.
Bob.
Stay
all right.
safe, Ryan.
I'm posting all your guys' links in the
Appreciate
chat
it.
right now.
Everyone like the stream and give Vibe all your money.
Mhm.
See you
Stay
later,
safe,
fellas.
Ryan. Have a good one, man.
All right. I'm sorry for neglecting you all. It's like spin the bottle and you make out with your camera when it's time to kiss. That's so true. Nicody likes black churches. Are we back to black now, or is it still African American? Not aiming to. I'm offended. Umbreon. As soon as I left, Umbreon starts biting me. You were good. That was fun. I like those conversations. I'm glad it's like a weekly thing, and that was the first like official episode, so that's the first one I streamed. But last week we did introductions. It was also a lot of fun. I think we've successfully defeated the Christian church officially. Do you feel like you found the origin of the Bible today? Not particularly. Not particularly. I feel like I learned a lot of stuff, a lot of like odds and ends. Also, yeah, good to see you, David. But I don't know that I've found the origin. I'll probably I like to I do after like all my streams and after like panels I go on, I always like feed the transcript into like ChatGPT and like sit down and like reflect on what's happened or what happened in those conversations. So I will probably go through that one. That one was really dense. There was a lot of stuff that I just didn't have time to really process in real time. So stealing your views. Oh, all good. You're here now. Just make sure you like the stream. I will stay live for a little bit because DefNot did complete the earlier goal for the post panel stream. Pretty sure we don't know the exact origin of the Bible anyway. God is the origin. I don't know who kept saying Abraham gave Ishmael a fortune when he sent him away, but that isn't accurate at all. Yeah. See, like I think maybe we're gonna go deeper into a lot of that stuff next, or like throughout these. I don't know. I just don't know a lot of these stories even. Like, I don't know the specifics of like any of these really. I have vague memories. Yeah, thanks, DefNot. Appreciate you. I did a deep research session with ChatGPT prior to this episode. Really helpful prep for the conversation that wasn't had today. Yeah, I can imagine. It was an interesting conversation though, nonetheless. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna like dive through it and listen back through like beat for beat and try to figure out like what I understand and what I'm still wondering about, so I can bring some notes maybe to the next one, which I guess we're going to be talking about the divinity of the Bible, or the alleged divinity of the Bible. Quit trying to bite me. Quit trying to bite me. No bitesies. No bites. Glad you enjoyed it, David. Ryan, one day cleaner pseudoscience BS is going to trigger me fully, and I'm going to go on a tirade about physics. Yeah, I don't like, and flow as well. I don't like the a rule. I don't like the whole, all those claims about the Big Bang Theory. I think it's a lot of it comes from like I don't have like a super strong understanding, but a lot of the stuff they were saying was like set off like red flags about what my interpretation is, where I'm like, I don't feel good about comparing creationism and the Big Bang Theory. I think there's like fundamental differences in what's going on there. How's everyone doing tonight? How are we doing? We're gonna chill for a little bit. We'll go for maybe 15-20 minutes at least, and we'll see how we feel then. If a burning shrub starts talking to me, I'm going into therapy rather than assume it's God. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Are there any panels coming up? Well, tomorrow night, I'm gonna go on Non-Fawn's stream, and he's gonna neolib pill me. Or he's gonna try to anyway. Try to neolib pill me. We'll see how that goes. And then Tuesday morning, I'm going on. I guess these are just panels, like things I'm going on, shows I'm going on. But in terms of the like panels, if you're looking to join panels, Powdered Dusty always has panels going on almost every day. And the Raging Tomato. Yeah, Dusty's a go-to. Here, I'll post his link. Umbre, you've got to calm down. You got to chill. Come here. You're being so extra right now. But yeah, Powdered Dusty always has panels. And then Sarah's taking the week off. But normally she has panels after every debate. Drank too much coffee. Be like that. I have a halfway decent understanding of the Big Bang Theory. I can tell you one thing: combustion was not involved. Yeah, my understanding is that it's just like we're just kind of tracing back space-time to like a singularity. Is that right? Like, is that a really like layman? Yeah. Does that make sense? Is that like a thing? I have no idea. Quit trying to bite me. I'm not your chew toy. You have chew toys. He says, yeah, but I want to chew on you. I want to chew on you. I'm glad I'm not a chew toy. No, it hurt. It does hurt. It hurts when you chew on my fingers. I don't like it. Don't do that. It's not good. Baby Umbreon using Bite, which is super, or it has Stab because he's a dark type Pokemon. Is that right? You look foolish. That's kind of okay in that it's not at all correct because the most vague idea behind it. Well, elaborate a little bit. Prince of Darkness. We love our Prince of Darkness here. Okay, let's does Dusty have a panel link? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, I think I might have to end it early. I gotta give this guy some attention. He's going crazy. I cannot elaborate on the Big Bang Theory in the stupid YouTube chat with its stupid character limit. All right, here. Tell you what, next time I go live, because right now Brown is driving me crazy, and I'm gonna go give him some attention. Yes, thank you for understanding, Def Not, even though you funded a longer stream. I appreciate you nonetheless. But my dog is going crazy. I'm gonna chase him around the house. But I appreciate you all. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for chatting. Thank you for the super chats and memberships and all the above. We had the gifted membership from Fuzzy. We had 3 super chats from Nuxus and 1 from Def Not. Appreciate all of those so much. That's huge. Seriously, means the world. Appreciate you all. Make sure you hit the like button. And I'll be live tomorrow. I might go live again tomorrow morning. Do another good morning stream. But I'll definitely be live in the evening when I go on non-fun stream. So I'll keep you all updated. Good night. Learning is radical. All that. Oh wait. Holy, so many sub chats. True. Oh wait, I gotta want to send you guys. I guess I'll send you guys over to Dusty actually. Let me see content. Woof. No, not Dusty. Well, let me see. I'm gonna see who's live. Dusty's got plenty of viewers. Let's see who's. We got Kel, Dusty, Glenn. I'm gonna send you guys to Kel. Actually, give Kel some love. Learning the Bible is radical. Sure, we'll take it. Yeah, tell Cal learning is radical. I think she's at a Kick streamer house in Vegas, so that's got to be fun. Learning is radical. Love you all. Be safe. Bye.